Hello everyone, welcome to What If Naruto Was Neglected Child of Minato and Kushina and Gained Chaos Powers and Become Angel Island's Guardian Part 4. Before we start, please go support King Sora 3 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. Chapter 9, Land of Wind. Desert. At the vast open desert, three sand chunin were heading towards their destination while also keeping their eyes and ears open. Only one of them was frantically looking around. "Will you calm down, Tobio?" One of the chunin told the frantic young man. "How can I, Tsubasa?" Tobio asked, still looking around. "That wind demon could attack us at any moment. Is it really okay for us to be out here in the open?" "Quit worrying." The leader of the group, Yajirobe, said. "The wind demon is on the other side of the country minding its own business." "He's right," Tsubasa said, staring at Tobio. "As long as the demon is where it's at, it won't bother us." The three noticed a strong wind was starting to pick up. The wind was so powerful that it made them use their arms to block the sand from going to their eyes. "Hey, Tobio called out. "It's nothing, Tobio," Yajirobe told his subordinate. "You know the wind is strong in this area." "But not this strong," Tsubasa exclaimed, still blocking her face. The wind suddenly got stronger, which picked up the sand and started to form a mini tornado. The trio of sand chunin eyes widened in shock at seeing the tornado, but then they widened further as they saw glowing sky blue colored eyes appear on the tornado, glaring at them. "What the hell?" Tsubasa asked, taking a kunai out. "It's the demon," Tobio exclaimed, looking ready to run. "Hold your ground and get ready," Yajirobe ordered his subordinates, taking out his kunai. "We are shinobi of the hidden sand village and we never run away." Tobio looked at his leader with a stunned expression. He turned to Tsubasa and saw she was holding her kunai out as well. She glanced at him and nodded her head, turning back to the eyes of the tornado. Tobio nods back at her before taking out twin kunai and taking a stance, gulping slightly at the demon's narrowed eyes on the tornado. The tornado dispersed itself and revealed the wind chaos himself, his chaos emerald glowing brightly in his body. "Get ready," Yajirobe told his subordinates. "If we die, then we die with honor." "Yes, sir." One glares at the humans for a moment before he jumps and spreads his arms out, causing powerful gusts of turquoise-colored wind to fly around him. The sand chunin watched with stunned looks, each of them not believing what they're seeing with their own eyes. He charged at the sand chunin, his dark intentions clear. Chaos 8. Battle in the Desert Part 1. Chapter cover. Team Chaos are running across the desert with Naruto looking back at something with a comical alarmed expression. Two silhouettes were behind them, one was a four-winged bird-like creature and the other was a monster with a single tail. Land of Snow. Valley. The day is a happy day for everyone in the Land of Snow as they continued with the celebration of the previous day. Many people were outside enjoying the nice warmth of spring and enjoying some good breakfast. While everyone was celebrating, Team Chaos and Princess Koyuki were outside of town, enjoying their time together. They were sitting on a hill of flowers, watching as everyone continued partying like no tomorrow. Naruto plucked a flower out of the ground and took a quick sniff. He sighs happily. "You know, this is a pretty nice country you have here, Koyuki. I'll say. It's really comforting," Kia said, whistling to the birds that were happily flying around her, making them chirp at her. "It's thanks to all of you," Koyuki said with a smile. "Because of your efforts in beating Frost, you not only saved the country, but also brought spring back. Now that everything's back to normal here, I guess you'll be going then?" "Yes." Zane agreed, who was lying down on the soft green grass. "There's more we have to do. That's 2 of the Chaos Warriors we've defeated and 3 emeralds we have in our grasp." Amachao informed as he summoned a holographic image of the emeralds with 3 blue, red and white of them crossed out, while also surprising Koyuki at seeing the 3D image. "All that's left is Vayu, Zenon, Gaia and Kia," trailed off at the end as a frown forms on her beautiful face. "Curios," Naruto said, frowning as well. He was going to say something, but blinked as he felt something rubbing his body. "Naya." Everyone blinked at the noise. They looked towards the source, which was next to Naruto, and saw a cat looking up at him while rubbing her body on him. The cat's body was snow white and it had a single blue bang. Its curious eyes were an even lighter shade of blue than Naruto's. "Hey, it's the cat I saved the other day," Naruto said happily, picking up the cat and softly rubbing its head, earning a purr of delight. "I'm so glad that you're okay," he giggled when the cat licked his cheek happily. "Aw, she's so cute," Kia said, also rubbing the cat's body softly. She examines the cat more closely. "I've never seen a cat like her before." "Is she yours, Koyuki?" "No. But I have seen her wandering around trying to play with everyone, even though they mostly ignore her except for the children," Koyuki told them. "Nobody knows where she came from. She just suddenly appeared in town one day, but then she just vanished when the snowstorm came." "Really?" Naruto asked, looking at the unique cat. "Well, she doesn't have a collar or anything, so she must be a stray. You must be really tough to survive out there by yourself, huh?" He giggled again when the cat licked his nose. He stood up while still holding the cat. "Sorry, but we gotta hit the road." "Naya." The cat looked at Naruto in confusion before being handed over to Koyuki. Naya, I'm sorry, but where we're going is dangerous. Kia said, rubbing the cat's chin softly. We just don't want anything to happen to you, that's all. The cat purred up a storm, but then mewed in disappointment when Kia stopped what she was doing. She looked at Naruto and saw him stretching his body out. He stops stretching and slaps his cheeks. Alright. You guys ready to go? Yes, Kia and Amachao said. Affirmative. Zane said. Naruto nods at them before turning to Koyuki. It was nice while it lasted, Koyuki. Sorry we couldn't stay for much longer. The Land of Snow's princess shook her head. No, don't worry about it. You guys have to go and stop those monsters, right? So then go. Just promise to visit every now and then. I still want you four to check out my movies, especially since you've never seen one of them before. Everyone smiled when they saw Koyuki smile at them and finished her sentence with a wink towards them. Naruto looked sheepish and rubbed his head. Sure, when we come back, I want to watch every last one of them. So do I. Amachao raised his hand. Me too. Kia raised her hand as well. Me three. Zane raised his hand. Their responses caused Koyuki to giggle. Anyway, we've wasted enough time. Let's get going. Naruto said as the blue emerald appeared in his hand. See you later, Koyuki. You too, little buddy. Naya the cat meowed, looking sad to see them go. Naruto gave an apologetic smile at the cat before closing his eyes, with the others following his lead. Chaos the cat jumped out of the surprised Koyuki's hands and was heading towards Team Chaos as they were surrounded by blue energy. Control. The blue energy covered them, along with their little feline friend, and they were transported away, leaving behind a shell-shocked Koyuki. Whoa. Land of Wind. Desert. A flash of blue light appears and reveals Team Chaos, all of them with their eyes closed except for Amachao. They opened their eyes and looked at their surroundings. Whoa, what's this place? Kia asked, surprised to see that they're in the middle of the desert. We're at the Land of Wind, home of Sunagakure, the village hidden in the sand. Amachao informed everyone. A hidden village? Naruto asked, looking around in comical confusion. Out here. The country covers a vast realm, but is significantly composed of deserts and thus has little productivity. Amachao explained. Because there is very little rainfall throughout the year, the people of the country live in villages built on one of the desert's many oases. Despite the country's extremely harsh environment, it does have a large population. Really? People actually live out here in this crazy heat? Kia asked while fanning herself using her hand. Well, there were people who lived in deserts back in my world. Amachao replied. So it's no surprise that even shinobi can live out here. Naruto placed his hands behind his head as he looked around the desert, a comical flat look on his face. Meh. It somewhat reminds me of the Sandopolis back on Angel Island. The difference? This place looks dead and empty. But isn't that how deserts are supposed to be? Kia asked, raising a curious brow at Naruto, whose flat expression turned happy. Yeah, but not on Angel Island. The Sandopolis is much brighter than this place. There's an oasis, some ruins scattered around, oh there's also tropical trees and pyramids all over the place. Kia listened closely as she imagined what Naruto was describing about the Sandopolis place on Angel Island with a smile on her face. The more he kept talking about the locations on the island, the more eager she was about wanting to explore it. But then she looked confused at the last part as she's never heard of pyramids before. Pyramids? What are they? Before Naruto could answer, Zane had spoken up. Hey. We have a stowaway. He got everyone's attention as he turned to them while holding a familiar feline in his hand. It's the cat, Amachao exclaimed as he flew towards her, the yellow dot above his head turned into a question mark. What's it doing here? The cat looked at Amachao with a tilt of her head and licked him, making him rub his head as his dot turned into a heart. She turns to Naruto with a happy expression as she leaps out of Zane's hand, prompting Naruto to catch her using both his hands. She ran up his arms to ride his shoulder as she licked his cheek and rubbed her face with his, purring all the while. Naya, I can't believe she actually came with us. Kia said, watching as the cat continues purring around Naruto. She must really love you, Naruto. I'm just that good with animals. Naruto smiled as he scratched the cat behind the ear, earning a purr of delight from her. Maybe she wanted to. The guardian stopped talking as he sensed something coming. Kia, Zane and even the cat sensed it as well. They turned around and saw a cyan tornado heading their way, making them jump out of its path with Amachao screaming in comical shock as he moved out of the way. After a couple of seconds, the tornado disappeared, though it did leave behind a big fissure in its wake. Holy chow, who did that? Amachao asked in comical shock as multiple exclamation marks appeared over his head. Then Naruto growled, glaring up at the figure surrounded by turquoise-colored wind. The wind dispersed and revealed the evolved Wind Chaos himself, glaring down at them. Everyone came together and took fighting stances with the tensed cat hissing at Vayu-1. Vayu? Saved us the trouble of looking for you, huh? Naruto asked, taking the cat off his shoulder and giving her to Amachao, who quickly flew away at a safe distance. I'm guessing you already know what happened to Anai and Frost, right? Bayu's glare hardened at the mention of his defeated siblings. He held his hand out and dancing winds appeared. Hey whoa, wait a second, Vayu, Naruto told him, raising his hands as a sign of surrender. I understand what you're feeling, I really do. But killing and causing all this destruction isn't going to change what happened in the past, and it's not going to fix how you truly feel. Vayu-1's eyes widened as ferocious wind disappeared and he fell to the ground. Naruto smiled softly as he slowly walks up to Vayu-1, his hands raised as a sign of peace. Kia and the others stood where they were as they relaxed their stances, though they still kept their guard up just in case Vayu-1 started something. Even the cat was watching with such intense interest. Listen, I've been thinking really hard about something since my fight with Anai, and I think I finally understand. Naruto said, looking down for a moment. When Order turned you and gave you your powers, he may have also transferred his emotions to you. What you and the others are feeling right now, those negative feelings, those aren't really yours, they're Order's, that's why you guys are acting like this. Now I know for certain that that's what Anai was telling me. The others weren't really surprised by what Naruto said. After all, he told them this the other night and Kia honestly thought the same thing. Because on that day when she felt the Sea Warrior's negative emotions, Order's emotions were the most powerful. So what Naruto said about Order sharing his emotions when he attacked them made sense. Since no one was paying attention to her, the cat's expression showed she was extremely confused on what was going on. This is all so confusing. I feel like I missed out on so much stuff, Naya. The water guardian's smile widened as he finally got close enough to Vayu-1, looking up at him due to the difference in height. He held his hand out towards the wind chaos, who only looked at it briefly before looking at him, just as Naruto smiled softly. Vayu, I know the real you is trapped inside the darkness in your heart. And I want to help you and the others out of it just as I did for Anai and Frost. So will you let me? Vayu-1's expression showed that he was stunned by what Naruto said. He looked at him then at the outstretched hand once again before slowly raising his hand to touch Naruto's, bringing a smile to his face and relaxed poses from his friends. Kia and Amachao smile at them, while Zane has a small smile. On the outside, Vayu-1 looked like he was frozen in place, but inwardly he was battling with his emotions, his real ones, and the ones that came from Order. Once Naruto was finished talking, the real Vayu that was trapped in the darkness saw a small bright light in the distance and tried to reach for it. However, Order's darkness wouldn't have it and tried to drag him back with Vayu trying to fight through it. In the end, the darkness took over and completely consumed Vayu as he continued to reach for it. Outside Vayu-1's mind, his eyes slowly narrowed into an angry glare as he grabbed the surprised Naruto by the neck and began to choke him, a dark aura surrounding him. He summoned dancing winds again in his other hand. Naruto, the others cried out. Naya the cat meows. Kia and Zane went into action and attacked Vayu-1 at the same time, forcing him to drop Naruto as he blocked their punch and kick. Vayu-1 then pushed them back only to get punched away by an enlarged fist from Naruto now transformed into chaos, which comically shocked the cat. Damn, I almost reached him, the young guardian said as Kia and Zane in his E-123 armor appeared next to him, watching as Vayu-1 stood up. Vayu-1's eyes glowed before a dark wind aura erupted from him, blowing the desert sand in the air and causing the trio to cover their faces while holding their ground. Amachao and the cat were comically blown back. The darkness within Order's heart. Kia said softly, peeking at Vayu-1 as she saw the aura. His negative emotions, they're even greater than Chaos's. We must hurry and take the Chaos Emerald out of Vayu. Zane started aiming his laser beams at the wind chaos. The dark wind and mini sandstorm dispersed as Vayu-1 charged at them. He raised his hands and created multiple balls of condensed wind at them. Eyes widened from seeing the balls of wind made the trio jump in the air. They looked down at Vayu-1 and saw he had vanished. What? Where's Naruto was interrupted when Vayu-1 appeared in front of him and sent an energy wind slash at him, sending him crashing back to the ground as clouds of sand covered him. Inside his armor, Zane grit his teeth and fired his laser beams at Vayu-1, only for them to be blocked by a wind barrier that surrounded him, surprising him. He was blasted away by a vortex that came out of Vayu-1's hand. Eyes, Kia called out before turning to glare at Vayu-1, only for her eyes to widen as he summoned his spear and tried to stab her. Whoa, she dodged the spear and used the handle as her momentum to perform an axe kick to Vayu-1's head, thereby hitting his brain. Vayu-1 was sent falling to the ground and landed with a splash, the glow of the Chaos Emerald circling around him. Kia smirked at her accomplishment as she flips and landed on the ground, rubbing her thumb across her nose. And that's how we do it. Kia, the incarnation of Taiko, looked back to see Naruto and Zane running towards her. Are you okay? Totally, Kia said, giving them a peace sign. Since she wasn't paying attention, Vayu-1 had reformed himself and now stood behind her, his lance raised to cut her in half, which alarmed Naruto and Zane. Kia, look out. Kia turned around and gasped when she saw Vayu-1. Naruto instantly appeared via chaos control, summoning Perfect Zero in his hands as he used it to block the strike. See Naruto grit his teeth as he unknowingly began to build up power in the trident. He then pushed Wei1 back and aimed his trident to stab him, only for it to fire a beam of intense concentrated blue energy that comically pushed him back as he gave a startled yell. Kia, who had already moved out of the way when see Naruto appeared, eyes widened in comical shock as he went past her, blowing her hair to the side. Zane himself blinked in confusion as he looked back at see Naruto, who was trying to control the trident. Wei1 was unfortunate as the beam landed a hit on him and was currently getting pushed back by it before he turned into a puddle once again, just as the beam vanished. Kia and Zane looked at the large puddle that was Wei1 before turning to see Naruto, who looked dumbfounded from what happened. He looks down at Perfect Zero, seeing the smoke that was coming out of the trident's tip, blinking multiple times. He then looked at his friends with a deadpan expression. I really need to learn how to work this thing. That earned him a giggle from Kia and a knowing look from Zane. Naruto everyone it's an emergency Amacho's voice called out, getting their attention away from Wei1. He also had the cat in his hands. They also took note of the panic in his voice. What's wrong Omo? See Naruto asked. Since they weren't paying attention to Wei1, his head popped out of the puddle and he was glaring at them. His eyes widened briefly as he sensed that Chaos had 3 of the Chaos Emeralds with him. A dark look appeared on his face as he disappeared into the wind. We found a little boy covered in bandages unconscious Amacho said urgently, shocking the teens. And his bandages had blood on them I think he's hurt. The little boy? Zane asked in disbelief. There's an injured child out here? Kia asked, her face full of worry and concern for the child. Why as you guys follow Amacho to the kid, I'll deal with Wei see Naruto told them. He instantly turned around to face Wei1, only to do a double take as he saw he vanished. Huh? He's gone. What everyone yelled before looking around for Wei1. Naruto, can't you and Kia sense him or the emerald? Amacho asked fearfully, looking frantically around for the wind chaos. The cat herself was looking for Wei1, her eyes narrowed into slits and a hiss escaping her mouth. No. I can't sense either of them. See Naruto told him. Same here. Kia agreed. He not only erased his presence, but he also somehow erased the emerald's power. Stay on guard he could attack us at any moment, Zane told everyone as they nodded their heads and continued to search for any signs of Wei1. Though they didn't have to wait for long. A gust of cyan-colored wind suddenly appeared and blew Kia and Zane in the air, making them scream out in surprise. Kia Zane, see Naruto jumps in the air to chase after them, but his eyes widened when Wei1 appeared in front of him once again. He gasped out in pain when Wei1 punched him in the stomach, causing a vortex to come out and blew him to the ground. As the Guardian crashed, the 3 Chaos Emeralds came out of his body and rolled on the sand before stopping. Oh no, the Chaos Emeralds. See Naruto stood up and ran to them, but Wei1 wouldn't have it. He summoned a twister that sucked up the Chaos Emeralds which made see Naruto stop and look on with widened eyes as he knew what was about to happen. He didn't even register that Kia and Zane had landed on the ground safely and joined him. Wei1 absorbed the 3 emeralds and he was covered in a bright light that caused a massive windstorm to appear. Amacho along with the cat quickly went to join the others, hiding behind see Naruto as they peeked from over his shoulder. The windstorm surrounded Wei1, covering him in a wind-like aura that looked exactly like a Chao cocoon only slightly bigger. The cocoon even started pulsing as though it was a heartbeat while it started to grow bigger. A loud screech came from inside the cocoon that echoed throughout the area, making the group tense up slightly as they saw the shadow of something inside it. The cocoon instantly vanished and revealed a completely different Veu, stunning everyone present. Unlike his previous form, Veu's new form almost resembled a huge bird. He has an eagle-like body with 4 powerful-looking feather-like wings protruding from his back, 2 of them looking big and the other 2 small. He also had sharp talons and a tail. Inside his arms, he had grey bones, each with a Chaos Emerald. He also has bones running from his stomach to his wings, where it has a pelvis-like bone holding 2 Chaos Emeralds. Everyone stared at the transformed Veu 4 with widened eyes. See Naruto, Amacho and Kia couldn't believe what they were seeing. Looking at Veu 4 reminded them about Chaos 4. However, instead of the aquatic shark-like form Chaos 4 was known for, Veu 4 looked like a bird out of a fantasy novel. Okay, that right there. Kia said in a comical stunned tone, pointing at Veu 4 as he glared down at them. That's not good. Veu 4 let out a screech as he brought the tips of his wings toward his hands where energy began to gather. The energy took the shape of a very large ball, which made everyone's eyes widen comically. Naya the cat meowed in a frightened tone as she jumped on see Naruto's head. Definitely not good the Guardian exclaimed as he grabbed Kia in a bridal carry and used a water tentacle to pull Amacho in her arms. Run. See Naruto turned and ran while summoning a wave of water to surf, just as Zane used the rocket thrusters of his armor to catch up with him. Veu 4 let out a final screech as he released his attack, sending it flying to where they once stood. Kia looked back at the big ball of energy as it landed to where they stood. Her eyes widened as it exploded upon impact and a dome was seen along a massive wave of sand. Eyes behind us, Kia called out amidst a loud explosion. Naruto and Zane looked back before their eyes widened at seeing the dome and the massive sand wave. Holy chaos. They looked forward and tried to move faster to get out of its range, only for it to prove meaningless as they were caught by the sand wave, earning comical wide-eyed screams from everyone except for Zane. They four watched as the dome of energy disappeared and in its place was a very large deep crater, with sand falling in it. He looked for his targets and couldn't see them anywhere, knowing for sure they got buried in the sand. The newly evolved wind Chaos let out a victorious screech and flew away. He let out one final screech as he disappeared from view. Muffled sounds could be heard from underneath the sand. The sounds got louder and louder as it began to reach the surface. Two drills erupted from the sand, and out came Zane, now out of his E-armor as soon as he emerged. He shook his head and looked around for his friends with his mechanical arms returned to normal. "Guys, where are you?" "We're here." Zane turns around after hearing one of his friends. He saw an energy shield was formed around Kia, who had Amachao and the cat in her arms. "Is everyone here?" Kia asked, dispelling her shield. "Mostly." "Where's Naruto?" Zane asked. "Naruto? Naruto, where are you?" Kia yelled out. Naya the cat meows loudly. Amachao flew out of Kia's hand and searched for the missing guardian. What he found was a pair of legs comically sticking out of the sand. "I found him," he called out as he flew to him with the others following after him. Once they made it to Naruto, Kia found herself holding her laughs in at the comical sight of half his body buried in sand and seeing him trying to find his way out. The cat also found it funny as she released a very silent giggle. Using his feet, he planted them firmly on the sand and pushed himself out, removing his hands. He used his freed limbs to further push his head out, all the while comically shaking his butt in the air, which Amachao and Kia laughed at with Zane himself releasing a small laugh and the cat biting her tail to keep herself from laughing out loud, lest she exposed herself. Hearing the laughter caused multiple comical veins to appear on Naruto's butt as he used his hands to summon a blast of water that helped him get out of the sand. He spat out the sand that was in his mouth while making gagging noises. Once he was done, he sent a comical glare at his friends, seeing them either chuckling or giggling at him. "Gee, thanks a lot guys." "No really, thanks for trying to get me out of the sand." Sorry Naruto." Kia apologized, smirking in amusement. "It was just too funny seeing your new dance." "That wasn't a dance," Chow Naruto exclaimed as he dusted the sand off his clothes while letting out a sigh, looking up at the sky. "Great. Not only did Vayu get the jump on us at the last second, he also nabbed the 3 emeralds." Amachao looked down sadly, feeling like it was his fault. "I'm sorry Naruto. It's because of me that Vayu took advantage of me taking your attention." Naruto rubbed the Robochow's head while smiling. "Don't worry Omo. I know it wasn't your fault. If anything it's my fault," he said sheepishly. "I mean I should have absorbed him when I had the chance but didn't. So don't feel bad about what happened." "Okay." Amachao perked up and happily nodded as he flew around him, earning a happy laugh from Naruto. Everyone smiled at the interaction between the two lifelong friends, but their expressions died down as they recalled what Amachao said about a child being out here. "Amachao?" Zane said, getting the Robochow's attention. "You said you found a child out here. Where is he?" "Oh right, follow me." Amachao turned and flew away with everyone following after him, though the cat took a ride on Naruto's shoulder. After following the Robochow for a couple of minutes, they finally found the boy whom he was talking about, lying face first on the ground unconscious. "There he is," Amachao told them, pointing at the boy. Team Chaos gasped at seeing the boy. They quickly slid down a sandy slope before running on the ground heading straight for the boy. Kia was the first to reach him as she got on her hands and knees. She gently grabbed the boy and slowly turned him around. She and the others gasped in as they saw the large amounts of blood on his bandages and the dirty clothes he wore. They also saw how bony the boy looked, showing that he hasn't eaten in days. "Oh my god," Kia whispered, staring at the half-dead boy with horror in her eyes. She moved his rough and dirty hair to the side, seeing the left side of his face covered in bandages. Anger appeared in Zane's eyes as he looked at the blood and bandages that covered the child's body. There's no doubt in his mind that the boy was most likely attacked by someone or something, and he was obviously running away from it, judging how badly his feet looked. Naruto stared at the child with widened eyes, his thoughts running 1,000 miles. What on Angel Island happened to this kid to make him look like this? Matter of fact, how did this kid get all the way out here in the middle of this desert? Did he come from the sand village or something? No, I'll worry about that later, Naruto thought as he examined the boy while making a ball of water out of his hand. Looking at it, the ball of water seemed to have some energy in it as it glowed a beautiful light. He could see the boy was dehydrated, no doubt due to the heat of the desert. Kia, seeing what Naruto was doing, gently moved the child's head closer towards his hand while Naruto used his other hand to open the boy's mouth slightly. He sends the glowing water inside the boy's mouth as he unconsciously drinks it. The boy's body emitted a bluish light for a brief moment, surprising Kia and Zane for a moment before it vanished. Everyone heard soft groans coming from the boy. They leaned in close as they saw him opening his soft orange-colored eye that wasn't covered by bandages. He initially closed it when he felt the rays of the sun. "Hey, are you okay, buddy?" The boy's lone eye widened at hearing the unknown voice. He instantly looked up and saw 3 people in front of him, staring at him with looks he wasn't familiar with. He also noticed that he was being carried in the girl's arms. He gave a yell as he pushed Kia away from him and frantically got out of her arms, backing from them with fear in his eyes, not caring that his feet were hurting. "Hey, whoa, it's okay, we're not gonna hurt you," Naruto said softly as he gently tried to take a step forward but stopped when he saw the boy continue to scramble back, staring at them with terror in his eyes as he began to tremble all over. "I don't get it," Amacho said, a question mark appearing over his head. "Why is he backing away from us?" "It's because he's terrified," Zane answered with a narrowed expression. Whatever has happened to him left a horrible scar in his mind and heart. "That poor little boy," the cat thought to herself. "Let me talk to him," Kia said. She stepped in front of Naruto and got on her knees, smiling softly at the child, who looked at her with fear. Seeing this, she let out a soothing aura. "Hello there, little one. My name is Kia." The fear in the boy's eye slightly died down a little bit as he looked at her with a little curiosity yet still caution. "KK Kia." Kia's smile widened even more as she nodded her head. She really should thank her grandma for teaching her how to control her spirit energy like this. "That's right, I'm Kia and these are my friends. The blue one is Naruto, the one in red is Zane, the little flying toy is Amacho, and the kitty cat is a new friend of ours." The boy looked at each and every one of them, seeing the smiles on their faces, though Naruto covered Amacho's mouth to keep him from shouting at Kia, judging by the vein that hovered above his head. The effect of Kia's soothing aura began to calm him down. "Hey, Kia, Naruto, Zane, oh, Amacho and Kitty." Everyone smiles happily at that while Kia nodded once again. "Yup. You had us worried and scared when we found you lying on the ground. Thankfully, Naruto here gave you some magic water to heal you." The boy stared at her before looking at Naruto. "You heal me?" "Yup, you got it, kiddo," the demigod replied happily. "You saved me?" the boy asked once more. He felt tears gathering in his eyes when he saw them nod their heads. These people, these strangers actually saved him. He stood up and tried to walk only to fall on the ground, surprising everyone. Kia ran to him and gently picked him up, holding the bandaged child close to her, shocking him slightly. The boy started to tense up but realized she was holding him gently and not rough like everyone else has done. In fact, thinking about the doctor lady who always treated him nicely did something like this to him. If he remembered correctly, she called it a hug. He leaned in closer to her, clearly enjoying the gentle embrace. The island princess smiles at the boy in her arms before turning to her friends, nodding at them. Naruto and Zane smiled while Amacho let out cheer and the cat meowed. They went towards them. "Do you have a name?" Zane asked. "Test subject 135. The boy whispered, not seeing everyone tensing up and going stiff. He clenched Kia's clothes tightly as tears fell from his eyes. "He always called me that." He gave everyone different names. "Is he?" Naruto asked in a tone fit for a big brother. Right now, he was trying his very hardest and not wanting this kid to see his expression as he didn't want to scare him. "The Snake Man." The boy answered in a terrified whisper, choking back a sob as memories of his time at the underground facility resurfaced, making him bury his face in Kia's shoulder and shake uncontrollably. "Snake Man?" everyone asked themselves. Kia, Zane, Amacho and the cat all looked confused as they tried to imagine what the Snake Man looked like. Naruto had a confused yet curious expression on his face as he looked down and thought. The Snake Man? He doesn't know why, but something about that sounds familiar to him. Kia suddenly had a fearful look on her face as she hugged the boy closer to her. She was scared about what she was going to ask him and the answer that she was gonna receive. "The Snake Man? Was he the one who hurt you?" The boy nodded his head frantically on her shoulder, his muffled cries being louder as his memories of the Snake Man hurting him and all other children like him resurfaced. Naruto bit his lower lip to keep himself from growling out loud as his eyes narrowed into slits, while Zane clenched his fist so tight, sparks were seen flying, both having enraged expressions on their faces. Kia covered her mouth in horror as tears gathered in her eyes. The cat had a snarl on her face as hissing noises came out her mouth, and Amacho looked horrified. "How long has he been hurting you?" Kia asked. A very long time," the boy answered before he ended up falling asleep. Seeing this, Kia stood up while holding the child in her arms, wiping away the angry hot tears in her eyes as she looked at her friends, seeing the looks of rage on their faces as she too felt the same way. "Amacho, how far away is the hidden sand village?" Naruto asked in a blank tone. It's not that far," Amacho said softly, still in shock after what he heard from the little boy. "We just have to keep heading straight." "Let's go then," Kia said urgently. Thankfully, it didn't take them very long to reach their destination. As they made their way across the desert, they found the entrance to the hidden sand village. Surprisingly enough, there weren't any guards around the gate. But as soon as they were gonna run right through it, they were surrounded by sand shinobi. "Hey, wait a second, we don't mean no harm," Naruto called out urgently. One of the shinobi stepped forward and addressed the group with a narrowed look. "Who are you? What business do you have coming here?" "We are travelers who came here to deal with a monster that's been terrorizing your country," Zane explained, shocking the shinobi. He pointed his hand at the unconscious boy. "We found this child in the middle of the desert and he needs medical care. Please," Kia pleaded. "He's been out there for who knows how long, we have to take him to the hospital." "She's right, once we drop him off, we'll be heading out to take care of the demon and then we'll come back to check up on him," Naruto finished, looking into the man's eyes. "He needs help." The shinobi looked at the children with surprised expressions before turning to their commander, who stared hard into the children's eyes before looking at the bandaged child. He turns to look at Naruto, seeing how it looked like he was the leader of this little group, seeing the desperate plea for them to help the child. The commander sighed tiredly. "Fine. The girl and child can go to the hospital. You two, however, are going to see the Kazekage about what you just said." The group looked at each other, having a silent discussion with each other. Kia nodded her head at them, which in turn made Naruto and Zane look back at the commander and nod their heads. The commander raised a hand and motioned one of his shinobi, a woman, to go near Kia and the child. The woman placed her hand on Kia's shoulder. She gave an apologetic smile at her as she did a hand sign. "Sorry about this, but you might feel a bit dazed." "Huh?" They vanished in a poof of smoke. Zane blinked at the strange teleportation technique. He turns to look at Naruto, who held onto the cat, a curious expression on his face. "What was that technique that woman did?" "It's called the body flicker technique," Amachao answered. "It's a very common technique amongst shinobi. It lets them travel long distances at an incredible speed. In other words, it's a teleportation jutsu," Naruto stated, turning to the commander. "You said you wanted to take us to the Kazekage, right?" The commander, well a bit put off that their toy was alive and could talk, nods his head. He turns and walks forward, moving his hand as the rest of the shinobi vanished. "Follow me." Naruto and Zane glanced at each other before following after him, going through the very giant gate. Once they made it through, an awestruck look appeared on the group's faces as they saw the hidden sand village in all its glory. Whoa, every building and home looked like they were made of incredible durable clay to keep it from falling apart. Looking at the shinobi, they were wearing blue or black uniforms underneath flak jackets of various shades of beige to better blend with their natural environment and shoulders guards. They also wore headpieces consisting of a head wrap and cloth neck covers. Some of them were even carrying very large fans. Naruto was still awestruck as they walked through the village. Never in his wildest dreams would he find himself in a foreign shinobi village outside of the Leaf Village, especially since he wasn't a shinobi on a mission. He can clearly see a major difference between the sand and leaf, aside from the obvious location and environment. Unlike the leaf, which had the Hokage mountain depicting the stone faces of all the Hokages, the sand had no such monument at all. The shinobi here are even dressed differently compared to the shinobi back at the leaf, as they don't have the Uzumaki clan symbol on the back of their flak jackets or shoulders. All in all, this is a pretty nice shinobi village, despite the state it was in, and it made Naruto wonder what the other shinobi villages were like. Honestly, he and his friends should be thankful and lucky the sand shinobi let them through. It just made Naruto glad that they weren't shinobi, otherwise they would have killed them on the spot. As if they could. "Wow. So cool," Naruto said with Amachao and the cat nodding in agreement. "So this is what a shinobi village looks like," Zane commented as he watched the people, both shinobi and non-shinobi, walk around with smiles. "It looks normal." The commander heard what they said and let out an amused chuckle. Oh yeah, these kids were definitely travelers if they hadn't been to any shinobi village yet. He actually thought they were shinobi until he saw that they didn't have any forehead protectors on their persons despite their foreign appearance. It just made him all the more curious about where they came from and how they know about the wind demon that's been constantly attacking the village. "That's right. It isn't much, but this village of ours is home sweet home," the commander said, glancing back at the boys. "Get ready. We're almost at Lord Kazukige's mansion." "Kazekage," Naruto hummed to himself. "I wonder what kind of guy he's like." Back in his former home, Gramps would always teach him about the many different shinobi villages and their home country, especially about the various kage that rule them. He always wanted to go to these villages one day and meet these kage. Now he's finally gotten the chance. The commander chuckled once again, earning curious looks from everyone. "Believe me. You'll know when you see him." As they walked, Amachao had noticed that everyone was looking at them. Some were curious, most were cautious, while others were blushing as they stared at Naruto and Zane. The children were looking up at him from atop Naruto's head. He merely smiled and waved at them, surprising them slightly before they waved back at him with widened eyes. The cat meanwhile was setting herself comfortably in Naruto's arms as she rubbed her head against his impressive chest. If one were to look more closely at her, they would see the cat had a blush on her cheeks as she enjoyed Naruto's warmth. She enjoyed it more as he softly rubbed her head with his gentle fingers. Naya the cat meowed in bliss, bringing a happy smile on Naruto's face as she dug herself deeper into his chest. "You like that girl?" Naruto asked as the cat licked his cheek, earning a giggle from him. "We're here." The group stopped what they were doing and stood in front of a large building that had the diaresis kanji on it. They looked at the entrance and saw a man in white robes waiting for them, along with a shinobi next to him. The man had auburn hair, dark eyes and had a very stern look on his face. The commander kneeled in front of the man. "Lord Rasa. I'm sorry for having to call you out here." "No worries. I was actually a little curious to hear of these outsiders." The fourth Kazekage smiled a little bit at his oldest loyal subordinate. He looked up at the group and examined them with a raised eyebrow. "I was told there was a girl and an injured child with them." "Yes, sir. The girl and child are currently at the hospital as we speak," the commander said as Rasa nodded his head. "Very well. I will handle things from here." The Kazekage told his shinobi as they bowed their heads and vanished. He looks at the group. "So, my men told me that you travelers came here to defeat the wind demon." "Yes we have," Naruto replied. "We fought others like it not too long ago and we need to hurry back and defeat it." "Others?" Even though Rasa was surprised to find out about that little tidbit, his face didn't as his eyes narrowed. "So there were other demons out there like one who attacked their country and killed many of his shinobi. Since the demon's first appearance, it attacked his village and he lost many of his shinobi during the battle to protect it. Whatever this demon was, it was unlike anything he's ever seen before and many of have been asking it what it was and where it came from. The demon was powerful. Too powerful. It was something he wants and needs in order to increase his village's resources once again." He looked into Naruto's eyes and saw no trace of deception from him, bringing more surprise from him. He couldn't believe that these children were able to beat other demons like it, but none of his shinobi couldn't. It told him that the wind demon had a weakness and these outsiders know what it is. He turned away and motioned his head to the building. "Follow me. I would like to hear more about this demon." Rasa walks inside the building with Zane and Amachao following after him. Naruto followed after them. He only took a couple of steps but then stopped as a sudden smell entered his nose. A smell that was all too familiar to him and was beginning to get used to it much to his disgust. "Blood." The demigod said that one word with his expression full of shock and alarm. Old blood and fresh blood. He never smelled so much blood like this before and it was coming from one source. He frantically looked around trying to find it, only to see nothing. Where is it? Where the hell is it coming from? It was so close to him yet he can't seem to find it, damn it. Much to his disbelief, the smell instantly vanished without a trace. Naruto heard the cat meow softly in his arms, making him look down to see her looking around with her ears back into her head and her expression full of fear. Seeing this made him hug her closer to him and rub her head gently. "Don't worry girl. I'm right here. I won't let nothing hurt you." The cat let out a soft meow as she calmed down a little bit. But that still didn't stop the intense fear that she was feeling. Naruto smiled gently at her before his narrowed eyes glanced around at the people walking nearby. As he saw nothing wrong or strange, he walked inside, only his guard is now up than before. But what Naruto didn't know was that he was being watched from atop of a building next door by a boy with short spiky auburn hair, his cold empty gaze following his every move as sand swirled around him. Meanwhile, hidden Sand Village. Hospital. Kia was currently sitting outside the room where the boy was being taken care of inside. She looked at the doctors and nurses who were working on the sick or injured and the shinobi who were patrolling. She won't lie, she's feeling a bit okay. No, she's feeling a lot nervous right now. Here she was, an islander from a place that's been cut off from the shinobi world, here in a shinobi village. Granted, she and the others are currently traveling through the countries, but she never once thought she would visit a village that was full of them. Thinking back on their trip during Wave, Zabuza and Haku were the first shinobi she met and they were both very strong in their own right. But she knows that there are shinobi out there that are even stronger than them put together, like the leaders of the village. What were they called again? Cage or something? Haikals incarnate placed her under her chin as she thought about Naruto and the others. She hoped that everything was going okay between them and the village leader. There's no doubt in her mind that they're probably explaining their situation to him right now. She also hoped Naruto and Zane didn't say or do anything stupid that would get them in trouble. Hearing the door open made Kia stand up to see someone come out. It was an elderly woman with black eyes and lavender-colored hair tied in a bun. She wore an which consists of a dark-colored, loose-fitting outfit with a poncho-like top. There was also a nurse next to her as the two conversed silently before the nurse went back inside. The elderly woman walked up to Kia. "Hello my dear. Are you the one who brought the child here?" "Yes ma'am." "Is he gonna be okay?" "Do not fear, the child will be fine." The elderly woman answered, bringing much joy and relief to Kia. "Thank you very much Miss Chio." "My name is Chio dear." Kia nods happily. "My name is Kia. Thank you very much for taking care of him Ms. Chio." "Of course," Chio said happily. Helping those in need is what I live for. Forgive me for being curious, but may I ask where you're from? You look like you're not from around any of the shinobi nations. Oh no, it's okay, I've been getting that a lot. Kia said with a giggle. I'm from an island that's far away from the shinobi nations. She scratched her head sheepishly. Even though we're not on the map, we do try to keep ourselves hidden from the shinobi countries since we don't like them very much. Gio laughed a little bit from that. Ah, so you're a foreigner. It's rare to see one nowadays, especially if shinobi haven't discovered it yet. If shinobi aren't allowed on your island, then it must be a pretty peaceful place to live in. It's understandable that they aren't allowed to enter, most of them do bring nothing but trouble. While Chio was laughing, a glare was on Kia's face as she looked at the floor. Tears immediately flashed into her head. They sure do. She shook her head, not wanting to think about it, and looked back at Chio. Miss Chio, is it okay if I see the boy for a little bit? The old woman stopped laughing and looked a little tense from that before looking down with a dark frown, making Kia blink at her in concern. Is something wrong? Oh no, the old woman smiled. The boy is sleeping right now. It's just. She looked back at the door before taking a deep breath as she looked back at Kia, a serious look on his face. Tell me, Kia, where exactly did you find that child? My friends and I found him out in the desert unconscious. Naruto, one of my friends, gave him some water to help wake him up. He was terrified when he saw us, but we managed to calm him down and talk to him for a bit. But then he fell back asleep, so we took with him us to this village, and here we are now. Chio hummed, looking a little thoughtful at the explanation. While she was curious about why non-shinobi children were traveling through their country, she was also more curious about the resting boy. Did the child say anything to you? His name or something? Kia looked angry as she clenched her fists tightly. Yes. He told us that he was called Test Subject 135. She spat those words out as though they were venom, shocking Chio by the title the child was called. He also told us somebody did that to him and that there were others like him. My goodness. Chio muttered, a shocked expression on her face. Did he say who it was? He said it was a snake man. Kia answered. Gasps were heard around her along with the sound of dropped objects. Kia's anger turned into confusion as she looked around her, seeing everyone, including Chio, stare at her with widened eyes, with some of them even going paler, tensing up in alarm. What is it? Kia asked in a worried tone, wondering why everyone was staring at her. The snake man, Chio muttered to herself as her expression turned into a dark glare. There's only one man I know with that description. To think that fool would do such a thing to children. Wait, you know this snake man? Kia asked, eyes widened a little in surprise. Chio looked at Kia for a moment before glancing around, noticing people were whispering amongst themselves. She turns her attention back to Kia. Come, let's talk inside. Kia blinked in confusion for a moment before she nodded her head and the two entered. The room was pretty big, but also basic, just like any other hospital that's out there. It had a bed, a heart monitor, a few tables here and there. There were also curtains hanging around the bed, blocking them from seeing the person that was lying down. But Kia knew that the child was in bed and she smiled softly when she heard the light snoring coming from behind the curtain. Kia. Chio spoke up, getting the girl's attention. That boy, he must be one of the very lucky few who managed to escape from that man and not get killed or forcibly dragged back to where he escaped from. In fact, it's a miracle that you and your friends found him out there before it was too late. What do you mean? Kia asked, her entire body tensing up from hearing that statement. The snake man the child mentioned is an extremely dangerous wanted criminal. Chio replied. Originally, this man was a famous and well-respected shinobi who hails from the Hidden Leaf Village. He came from Naruto's former home? Kia asked herself. She leaned in a bit closer to hear more about this snake man. He and his team were trained by Hiruzen Sarutobi, the supreme shinobi and former third Hokage of the Leaf Village. Chio continued. The man and his team participated in the Second Great Ninja War, where they fought the legendary shinobi Hanzo in battle and managed to win. After his defeat in battle, Hanzo gave the man and his team the title, the Three Legendary Sannin, for their accomplishment in managing to survive against him when all others couldn't. But then, sometime after that event, the man's true ambition was revealed. True ambition? He wished to seek immortality. Kia gasped in disbelief. This man wanted to know all of the world's secrets, but knew that he wouldn't live long to discover them. So in order to discover how to achieve immortality, he performed heinous experimentation on not only the prisoners he's captured, but also on his own comrades. Immortality, Kia whispered in disgust, her hair shadowing her eyes. All those awful things he did on innocent people and his own comrades, he did all of that just to seek something that's impossible. I'm afraid so. Chio said, her tone very similar to Kia's. It wasn't until years later, after Minato Namikaze was named the fourth Hokage of the Leaf, that they caught the man doing experiments on the citizens of the Leaf. The man defected from the Leaf Village and hasn't been seen since then. But there have been reports on shinobi, including ours, who have gone missing over the years, which tells us that it's his doing. Chio finished her explanation as she looked at Kia, seeing her shaking in anger at what the snake man had done. Human experimentation. The dirtiest, most despicable act in human history. It's bad enough that they do it on animals, but it's worse when a human does it to other humans. No matter if they were bad or good, it was still wrong, and it's disgusting to know that one man would do something like that, all for the sake of obtaining immortality and to learn more about the world's secrets. Kia's eyes slowly widened in realization as she turned around to look at the boy behind the curtains. She walked up to the curtain, her entire being shaking in nervousness at what she was about to see. Chio, already knowing what she was going to do, just looked down at the floor and let her be. "That's right, my dear. That boy has been experimented on by that same snake man whom I told you about. That's why I said it was a miracle that he managed to escape from him. But I'm afraid he waited too late, for the damage done to him cannot be reversed. And there's no doubt in my mind that the poor child has been scarred for life because of this whole ordeal." Thea raised her trembling arm up to tightly grip the curtain in her hand. She slowly moved the curtain back just as Chio continued to speak once again. "The one who did this, the snake man the child was talking about, and the one who seeks immortality, he is called." Thea released a horrified gasp as she stared at the boy. His shirt and pants along with the bandages were gone, leaving him in his underwear, but that's not what horrified her. The boy's entire body was filled to the brim with scars. Some looked like he was cut open with, while others looked like they were from a fight with a large one on his shoulder. Most of the scars looked old, while others looked like they were recently healed. Looking at his left arm, it looked like he was wearing a dark red reptilian-esque claw that extends to his elbows, kinda like Zane with his robotic arms. There were glowing golden veins that ran through it in its entirety. She looked up at his cute little face and saw a deep scar on his left cheek. "Orochimaru, the snake Sannin. Hidden sand. Kazukiya's office. And that's when we came here," Naruto said as he finished explaining what was going on to the fourth Kazukiya, who sat behind his desk and listened intently to the story that was told. He didn't tell him anything that was too important though, like the Chaos Emeralds. As for the Sea Warriors, he just told him that they came from a faraway unnamed island that got destroyed when they woke up. He sure as hell didn't want these guys to learn about Kia's island and to go there just to conquer it. Everyone were currently inside the Kazukiya's office, standing in front of his desk with the fourth himself sitting behind it. The room was pretty big, bigger than the Hokage's office, as there was a couch on the other side, along with a stack of scrolls lined up on the shelves. Urasa hummed to himself. Interesting. So his country wasn't the only one that was being attacked by the wind demon that appeared. There were different elemental versions of the demon across the major shinobi countries, with 2 of them already killed by the travelers. If he were honest, he was actually annoyed to hear that information. Since there are other elemental demons attacking the countries, then that just meant the other Kage are probably planning on sealing them to make a different kind of Jinchuriki. Thankfully for him, the travelers took care of the Land of Fire's demon first. After all, they had the powerful Nine-Tails Fox, both yin and yang halves sealed inside the Hokage's twin daughters. If Minato Namikaze were to seal one of these Chaos Warriors inside another child, then the Land of Fire would be even more powerful than it already is as of now. The Land of Snow he wasn't all that worried about since it's just a minor country with an equally minor shinobi village. So even they wouldn't know the proper sealing techniques to even make a Jinchuriki. All that was left were here, the lands of Earth and Lightning, and the country of where the Seven Tails is located. There was also something Naruto said about these demons. Rasa stares at Naruto, who still held the now sleeping cat. "Okay, say I believe you about these Chaos Warriors, tell me, just how powerful are these creatures?" One was powerful enough to nearly burn half a country, and the other was able to keep it in an eternal snowstorm. This all happened after they left the island they destroyed. Zane replied in a blank tone, making Rasa blink in shock. If that's true, then these Chaos Warriors might be more powerful than some of the tailed beasts, the fourth Kazukiya thought. So then tell me, if these things are that powerful, then how were you travelers able to beat 2 of them? Because we know everything about them, from their strengths to their weaknesses. Amachao answered this time with the demigod nodding in agreement. Even though the Chaos Warriors have elemental forms, each one is weak against another certain element. Not only that, but they all do share the same weakness, which we use in order to beat them. Naruto continued, shaking his head. Though with Vayu, it could be a bit difficult to get him. Why say that? Because he's evolved to a higher form now. Zane answered, making the fourth Kazukiya look at them with a wide-eyed expression. Evolved? It can do that. Yeah, and he's even more powerful than he was before. Naruto replied, remembering that attack Vayu 4 launched at him. Rasa placed a hand under his chin. This is even better than he thought, so the wind demon, or Vayu as these travelers called it, can evolve to a higher form. It's official, he must have this creature in his grasp and seal it inside a child, that way the village can be even more than what it currently is. Speaking of, we should hurry up and meet with Kia at the hospital. Amachao said. Indeed. We cannot waste time with Vayu still out there in his evolved state. Zane replied. He could come back and completely destroy the village. Or worse, Naruto said with a narrowed expression. He'll fly off somewhere to another country. Let's hurry and go before that happens. Right. The group turned around and was about to head out. Wait for a moment. Rasa told them as they stopped and turned to him. Before you leave, I believe it's best I send my ninja with you. After he said that, Naruto and Zane narrowed their eyes slightly at the fourth Kazekage, while Amachao tilted his head to the side in confusion. The cat's ear twitched slightly as she opened her eyes a little bit to stare at Rasa. Are you sure? The Robochow asked. As you said, since the wind demon evolved and became more powerful, that means it'll be difficult with just you three, yes? Rasa questioned. Being the case, that also means you're going to need extra help in order to defeat it. So with that in mind, I have the perfect team for this kind of thing. Boo. Us, obviously. Naruto, Amachao and the cat, with the exception of Zane, jumped at the sudden female voice that spoke up. They looked at the couch and saw an older girl sitting there with her leg crossed over the other, while an older boy stood to the side with his arms crossed. The girl has teal eyes and sandy blonde hair, which is gathered into 4 consecutive pigtails. Her outfit consists of a single light purple-colored, off-the-shoulders garment that extends halfway down her thighs, with a scarlet sash tied around her waist. In addition to incorporating fishnet worn over her shoulders and legs, specifically on her right calf and her left thigh, she also wore her black forehead protector around her neck. The older boy wore a black baggy full bodysuit with a red and yellow circle on the front. He also wears a black hood which covered his head completely and had cat-like ears and his forehead protector on his forehead. He also wore face paint. He was also carrying something wrapped in bandages on his back. How nice of you to join us, Temari, Kankuro. Rasa said to his children. Of course. We did want to meet our supposed guests. Temari said, her eyes moving towards Naruto and Zane, though they were more focused on Zane. And I'm liking what I see so far. So, these are the so-called travelers that showed up at our village, huh? The same ones who fought that wind demon and survived. The face paint boy asked, smirking mockingly at them. 2 punks, a cat and a toy. Heh, what a joke. That earned him comical glares from Naruto, the cat and Amachao, while Zane just stared blankly. Hey, who are you calling a toy? Amachao asked in comical anger as he flew towards the surprised boy's face. I'm not a toy, I'm a real chow. Well, look at that. The toy is really alive and it talks, the boy said mockingly. You know, when I was a kid, I always used to love getting toys, only because I get to destroy them later on. Amachao turned blue and gave a startled squeak. DD, don't hurt me. He flew behind Naruto, who gave a flat glare. You know, when I was a kid, I always loved kicking a stuck-up jerk's ass, and I still do it to this day. The guardian told him with a half-lidded expression before blinking in confusion as he looked between the older teens. Hey, wait, aren't Genin Squad supposed to have 3? Where's the other? Naruto stopped talking as he felt his instincts screaming at him. They were telling him that a powerful, dangerous threat had appeared and it was right behind them. He slowly turned around and found himself staring into the cold, empty eyes of the threat in the form of a boy, standing in front of the door with his arms crossed. When did he get here? Naruto asked in shock. The boy looked to be about Naruto's age with fair skin, green eyes, and short spiky auburn hair. He lacks distinctive pupils or eyebrows and has tanuki-like black rings around his eyes. There was a carved kanji for love on the left side of his forehead, which his hair is parted in order for it to be kept visible. He wears a black bodysuit with an open neck, t-shirt-like sleeves, and almost full-length leggings. With this, he wears a white cloth over his right shoulder and the left side of his hips. He has a wide leather band from his left shoulder to his right hip with which he carries his sand gourd and around which he wraps his forehead protector. Sensing the danger, the cat was now fully awake and looked at the danger in front of her. She let out a very loud hissing sound and backed up into Naruto, which drew the attention of just about everyone in the room. Wait a second, when did he get in here? Amachao asked in comical shock. He definitely did not see the mysterious Reed standing there just a second ago. And of course, you're here as well. Rasa said with narrowed eyes as he stared at his youngest son. Gaara. Zane narrowed his eyes at Gaara before turning to look at Kankuro and Temari, seeing the nervous expressions they both had on their faces. Whoever this kid is, they were definitely scared of him. But why? Why would they fear someone who's younger than them? Hearing a growl next to him caused Zane to turn to Naruto, and what he saw surprised him slightly. Naruto had a fierce snarl on his face as he glared hard at Gaara to the point where the pupils of his eyes turned slit-like. Even Snow was snarling at him, making a lot of hissing noises. What's wrong, Naruto? Amachao took notice of it as well and asked his best friend that question. Earlier when we were outside, I smelled a large amount of blood, but then it vanished. It was mixed between old and fresh. Naruto said, not taking his eyes off Gaara for even a second. Now I know that gourd on his back, it's the source of where the smell is coming from. Everyone, except for Gaara of course, were surprised by his response, while Amachao looked alarmed from that as he hid in Naruto's shirt, away from the Auburn boy's blank gaze. Gaara's emotionless gaze was on Zane for a moment before he turned to the still scowling Naruto, completely ignoring both the hissing cat and now scared Amachao. There was something different about both of them, especially the blue hair one. The beast within him was growling at the blue one as it too could feel something different about him. Something otherworldly. Rasa coughed in his hands, getting everyone's attention. Naruto, Zane. I would like to introduce to you my children, Temari, Kankuro and Gaara. The group looked surprised to hear that. These three are the top genin squad throughout the entire village. I am absolutely certain that they can help you defeat the wind demon. Naruto still had the surprised look on his face before he looked thoughtful. He can easily tell that the fourth Kazekage was up to something, especially since he was sending his children out with him. He glanced at Zane who only shrugged in response, earning a deadpan expression. He then sighed and rested his arms behind his head. Alright, they can come. But first we have to get our friend then drop these two off. Rasa gave a small smile and nodded his head at him. The two of them left the office and the smile on Rasa's face vanished at that moment. He looked at his children with a gaze that was fit for a cage. Make sure those travelers don't kill that demon. I want it brought back here alive. The Sand Genin, except for Gaara, nodded their heads at their leader before they vanished. Later, the group were on their way to the hospital to meet up with Kia, all of them remaining quiet for a moment. Naruto took a whiff in the air to make sure they weren't being followed by Gaara or his siblings. Knowing that they aren't, he let out a deep sigh and had a comical flat expression on his face. I don't trust the Kazekage. Neither do I. Zane agreed. It's obvious that he is up to something that involves Vayu. Like what? Amachao asked. What could Lord Kazekage want with Vayu? It's like I said before when we left Angel Island. Naruto said. Since the Chaos Warriors are attacking the major shinobi countries, the cages of those villages will try to capture them so they can seal them into someone and control their power. In other words, they will be making a Jinchuriki using the Chaos Warriors since all of the tailed beasts are currently sealed inside their human hosts. Zane added in. Oh, you mean like that Nine Tails fox monster in the Leaf Village, right? Amachao asked as Naruto nodded in agreement. Hey wait, doesn't that mean we should be careful around here? There's probably a Jinchuriki here right now, and if the Leaf Village has the Nine Tails fox, then what tailed beast does the Sand Village have? Naruto and Zane stopped walking as they turned to Amachao with comical blank looks on their faces. They glanced at each other before Naruto let out a short yell that made Amachao and the cat jump a bit in comical shock while gaining the attention of everyone else, who looked at him with surprise. Oh man, I've been so focused on the Chaos Warriors, I completely forgot about them, damn it. Okay, so here's the thing. While Naruto knew that he was definitely stronger than the average shinobi, he never really took into account the power of a Jinchuriki. Because they had the power of whatever tailed beast was sealed in them, and that kind of power would make them even more powerful than a cage-level ninja, especially if they have good control over their beasts. So if there is a Jinchuriki here in this village, then they'll have to be on the lookout and beat them before they fully transform into their beast form. The cat looked at Naruto with a tilt of her head as she let out a small giggle at the comical expression he was making. Feeling her ears twitching, she looked ahead and pawed at Naruto's cheek. Naya the cat meows loudly, getting everyone's attention as they look ahead to see Kia outside of a building next to some old woman. Hey Kia, Naruto called out. Kia and the old woman looked back and saw Naruto running up to them with Zane walking at a steady pace. Oh, hey guys. Oh my, so these are your friends? Chiyo asked in surprise, bringing attention to herself. That's right, Ms. Chiyo. Kia answered, a small smile forming on her face. Chiyo examined the two boys while humming as though she was trying to remember something. She pointed at Naruto first. You're Naruto. The other one must be Zane, and the toy is Amachao, yes. That's right, nice to meet you, Granny. Naruto confirmed with a smile while covering Amachao's mouth with his hand as he was comically yelling. He then gestured to the cat in his arms. And don't forget about Snow here. Everyone stared at him, making him blink in confusion. Snow? Kia asked, tilting her head. What? We gotta call her something. Naruto said with a comical expression. But why Snow? That's not even my name, the cat complained inwardly as she huffed. He does have a point. Amachao said. It's kinda fitting if you ignore the blue hair on her head. That earned him an annoyed comical glare from Snow which made him actually fly back nervously. Kia sighed and shook her head at them with an amused smile. So how did it go with Lord Kazekage? Pretty well. Naruto shrugged. We're about to head out to defeat Vayu in a little bit, though we're gonna have some extra help. Extra help? The Kazekage has sent his children on the mission with us. Zane replied with Kia looking surprised and Chiyo looking shocked. He what? The elder asked. Yeah, he wanted his kids to help us with Vayu. Naruto said, making Chiyo look down with widened eyes and a slightly fearful expression. That foolish man, what is he thinking now? We're going to meet with them outside of the village. Naruto continued. Amachao and Snow are gonna stay and watch the kid for us until we come back. How is he anyway? Kia tensed up at that question as she remembered the child's body earlier. She tried to explain what she saw to them, but she didn't know how to. What she saw was something so awful and disgusting that she began to think that this Orochimaru character was in fact a demon instead of human. This didn't go unnoticed by everyone present as they saw how nervous she looked. Naruto and Amachao looked worried and scared that something happened to him while they were talking with the Kazekage, with Zane looking at the building with a narrowed expression. What is it? Amachao asked worriedly. Did something happen to him? Oh no, he's fine, he's asleep right now, Kia reassured her friends, but then looked away from them. I believe it would be best for you youngsters to see for yourself. Chio said grimly as she turned around and entered the building. Naruto and Zane tense up a bit as they glanced at Kia and saw her looking down. The two followed after Chio, leaving Kia alone as she braced herself for what was about to happen. A couple of minutes later, she felt a powerful rise of energy erupt from within the building, along with Naruto's rising anger. The island princess also noticed that many shinobi in the area stopped what they were doing as they all felt the unknown energy as well with looks of alarm. The energy disappeared after a couple of seconds. Kia looked back at the entrance to see Chio, Naruto and Zane walking out. Chio had a blank expression on her face, though she was glancing back at the boys, but it was Naruto who had her attention most. Zane had a cold look on his face, while Naruto's hair covered his face, though she can tell what he's already feeling, judging by the slight glow of his eyes and his bared fangs. She also noticed Snow and Amachao weren't with them, meaning they were in the room with the boy. Chio took a heavy sigh and addressed the group. Listen children, I know what you're feeling right now is terrible. What you saw was something that no one, let alone a child, should have to go through. If anything, we should at least be happy that he escaped that fate and survived. The group looked at the elderly woman before turning to each other. While all three of them were downright furious to see what had happened to their young friend, they knew that elder was right. The boy was safe and out of that snake man's clutches. They gave smiles towards each other and nodded their heads. They turned to Chio. Thank you for your kind words, Ms. Chio. Kia said gratefully as she bowed towards her. She turned towards her friends. Let's go. I'm pretty sure we kept those ninja waiting for too long. Right, let's go, Naruto said as he got ready to grab his friends. Hidden Sand Village. Entrance. Just outside of the village, the three Sand siblings were at the entrance waiting for the travelers to show up. Tamari was practicing with her giant fan weapon, Kankuro was pacing around, and Gaara simply stood where he was looking out at the distance. Damn, those guys sure are taking their sweet time coming here. Kankuro said, still pacing. Chill out, Kankuro. Tamari told her little brother. They did say they were going to check up on that kid they brought and get their friend. Yeah, but do they even know where the hospital is at? Kankuro asked in annoyance. If these guys did what they say they did with those other two chaos demons or whatever they're called, then they need to hurry up. Because of this stupid demon, we won't be able to make it in time for the Chunin exams. Hell, for all we know it's probably. Shut up, Kankuro. Gaara said emotionless, making his older brother flinch. He glanced up at the sky, seeing a shadow fly across the sun. They are here. That earned confused looks from Kankuro and Tamari. Huh? What are? Boom. The cloud of sand erupted as something landed in front of them, making the older siblings flinch, while Gaara stared at the cloud of sand. The sand vanished to reveal Naruto with his arms wrapped around Kia and Zane. He released them and turned to the sand siblings. You sure took your time coming here. Kankuro said, making Naruto roll his eyes at him. So'r I. The Guardian said sarcastically, ignoring the glare sent his way. Kia, these are the guys we were talking about, Tamari, Kankuro, and the guy with the gourd is Gaara. Kia waved to them. If we're done with these pointless greetings, then let's go. Gaara said as he moved forward, ignoring the glare Naruto gave him as he walked past. However, the moment the youngest brother walked past Kia, she saw a vision of some monster, glaring and roaring at her, before it vanished. She gave a startled gasp and held her chest to calm her beating heart. She felt someone grab her shoulder, making her turn to see Naruto and Zane look at with concern and worry. Hey, are you okay? Naruto asked. Why yeah, of course I am. Kia answered, smiling to reassure them. Are you sure? Zane asked this time. Because you look like you've seen a ghost. Nah, just thought I saw something. Kia told him as she turned to walk ahead of them. Come on, the others are waiting for us. The two boys just watched on with confused expressions. They looked at each other with raised eyebrows for a moment before shrugging their shoulders and joined her. As she was in front of them, Kia didn't want her friends to see the fearful look on her face as she looked towards Gaara, shivering slightly as she remembered the monster. Such bloodlust, she thought to herself. Whatever it was she saw, she knew one thing just by sensing its bloodlust. It was extremely dangerous, very powerful and is full of anger and hatred. Meanwhile, Hidden Leaf Village. Hokage's office. Minato was sitting anxiously in his office, looking out at the window. It has been only a day since the retrieval team left and he was waiting for a letter from them to see if they managed to find Naruto. Ever since they left yesterday, his mind has been preoccupied on his son as he had sent his ninja and the elders home. Just like yesterday, he had so many questions about his runaway son that didn't make sense to him. Like his appearance first of all. Remembering the form Takashi took, Minato placed his hand under his chin and closed his eyes, picturing it. He definitely knew that Naruto's current form wasn't a transformation jutsu, so why exactly did he look the way he does now? His hair went from blonde and spiky to a more smooth flowing ocean blue color. The 3 whisker-like birthmarks that he had were completely gone, making him somewhat look like an exact replica of him if he had blue hair. His eyes had a slightly green tint around his pupil, making it look like his eyes were glowing slightly, while the rest were still ocean blue. When Naruto was younger, he was incredibly shorter than the kids in his age group including his sisters, but now he looks taller than any of them. Minato couldn't believe how his son went through this huge change in the 6 years he's been gone. He didn't even know how it happened until Takashi told them about his mysterious ability to control water. Is that the reason why Naruto looks the way he does now? Did he truly awaken a power that allows him to control water when he was away, or is it more to it than just that? It would make sense. After all, it's unheard of for a Kekkei Genkai to change the appearance of someone when they're using it. But what sort of Kekkei Genkai does Naruto have that doesn't require chakra? Now that's something that doesn't make sense. A poof of smoke erupted on his desk, knocking him out of his thoughts as he looked at it, seeing it was a small orange toad. "Yo, Minato. Got a message for you from Jiraiya and the others." The toad said, pulling out a scroll from his back and tossing it to the blonde cage who caught it. Minato opened up a scroll and began to read through its contents. Once he was finished, he dropped the scroll on his desk, his expression full of shock and disbelief from what he read. The toad looked uncomfortable as he looked at the shocked cage and decided to snap him out of it. "Hey, Minato," the 4th Hokage immediately snapped out of it. "You alright, kid?" "Why yes. I'm fine." Minato answered as he picked up a scroll again, rereading what his sensei wrote, frowning slightly. He was trying to think of what he should do with the information he got. So not only is it true that Naruto has the power to control water, he is also able to transform into some unknown creature. And those demons that have been terrorizing the shinobi world were parts of that same power that was taken from Naruto when he was little. That means that unknown power did awaken within Naruto at some point after he left the village. From what the letter said, Naruto was strong enough to stand toe-to-toe with the infamous demon Zabuza Mamachi, an A-rank missing nin, and he didn't manage to get himself hurt while doing so, which was honestly impressive to him. He and his friends also managed to beat an eye and left for the land of snow the following day. If they follow this pattern, then that only means they probably beat that frost creature there and ended up somewhere else. The yellow flash won't tell anyone this, but his heart felt like it was stabbed by a million kunai when he read about Naruto having a new family. He couldn't imagine what Kushina was going through after Tazuna told her this in her face, and to be honest, he was worried of what she might do to Tazuna later, but then again, she's probably too heartbroken to do anything right now. He definitely didn't even want to know how the girls would react to the news, especially Mika, since she wanted to meet her big brother the most. Naruto, Minato thought sadly before he shook his head. No. Now wasn't the time to be thinking about that. New family or not, Naruto was still his biological son, and he needed to think about how to deal with him when bringing him back home. If he was able to take down Zabuza Mamachi, then what else is he capable of? I know that once he beats those Chaos Warriors and absorbs them, he'll regain the pieces of his power and disappear again. And once he and his friends return to the land of waves, he'll no doubt attack Kushina and the others the moment he sees them, and we won't know how powerful he'll be. What should I? But then an idea popped into his head. He quickly grabbed a pen and a blank message scroll, writing something on it. He rolled the scroll up and gave it to Toad. "Make sure that gets sent to the retrieval team ASAP." "On it." The Toad replied, grabbing the scroll and vanished. Once the Toad vanished, Minato snapped his fingers and his 3 Anbu appeared kneeling in front of him. He turns to look at them. "Gather up the elders and the shinobi clan heads for a meeting." The Anbu nodded their heads as they vanished. Minato sighed as he looked out the window. "I hope I know what I'm doing. Land of wind. Desert. So wait, you're telling me that the shinobi of your village can only use wind-style techniques, while other countries use different elemental styles?" Kia asked Tamari curiously. "That's right. Man, you 3 really are foreigners," the eldest Sand sibling said as she rolled her eyes. "Though it's true that most of us do use wind-style techniques, there are some, like yours truly, that use a fan to generate them when we can't produce them naturally. In fact, believe it or not, wind release is one of the rarest of the 5 nature transformations. Oh, so that's why the shinobi nations have the elements in their names," Kia said, looking up thoughtfully. "I guess that kinda explains why the Chaos Warriors would split and go to the different countries. The group were still traveling across the desert, heading towards Wave 4's location. Naruto was in front of the group since he was able to sense him, Gaara was not too far walking next to him, Kia and Temari were behind them with Zane and Kankuro in the far back. They've been traveling for a good 10 minutes since they left the village, and things were pretty tense, with no one not saying anything to each other. But Kia, being more curious about the shinobi of this country, asked the Sand Trio some questions about them. Gaara had ignored her, Kankuro wasn't paying her no mind, and Temari was the only who answered all her curious questions, if not just to shut her up. It also gave Team Chaos a chance to learn more about the shinobi world and what exactly they do with their chakra, aside from using it to stick to walls and perform jutsus, like using it to discover what their nature transformation is, which is an advanced form of chakra control that allows them to perform elemental ninjutsu. The 5 basic natures were fire, wind, lighting, water and earth, which is why the countries were named after those natures, because the shinobi of those countries use those specific natures, while others have a unique kind of nature. That's so? Temari replied. Kia was going to ask another question, but stopped as she had remembered something important that she needed to share with her friends. Hey Naruto. What's up? Naruto asked, turning around to her with his hands resting behind his head while walking backwards. Have you ever heard of someone named Orochimaru? Kia asked curiously, causing Temari and Kankuro to tense up slightly at the mention of the name. Orochimaru? She nodded her head, causing the Guardian team to look up thoughtfully. Lem see. I think I remember hearing that name when I was little. Maybe this'll help you remember better. Kia said. He was the former student of the 3rd Hokage. The light bulb appeared above Naruto's head. Oh yeah, now I remember, I've always heard stories about him along with Tsunade and Jiraiya. Not only did they beat up that salamander guy during the war, they also got 3 powerful summoning animal contracts. Summoning animals? Zane and Kia asked curiously. Yeah. See, when a shinobi meets a certain kind of animal or its species and has a contract with them, they'll be able to summon that animal to help them out in battle. Naruto explained, remembering what Lord Third taught him when he was young. That's amazing. Zane commented. This information was something very new to him, as he had no idea shinobi were also very skilled with summoning powerful creatures. These legendary Sannin, what are their summoning animals? The half-lidded Naruto frowned slightly, mainly at remembering his godparents. The no-good pervert Jiraiya can summon toads, and the old hag Tsunade can summon slugs. Kia and Zane blinked at the descriptions Naruto gave to 2 of the Sannin, while Temari and Kankuro chuckled. Gaara ignored everything that was happening around him. As for Orochimaru, Naruto placed a hand under his chin. If I'm remembering right, I'm pretty sure that his animal contract is with snakes. He stopped walking as it finally dawned on him about what the boy said. Snakes? Zane asked, stopping as well as he looked at Naruto with widened eyes. You don't mean? Yeah. Ms. Chio told me everything about that filth. Kia said angrily as she too stopped as well, while the Sand siblings kept walking, though they were still listening. Orochimaru, he's the snake man the little boy was talking about. He's been experimenting on him and countless others just to search for immortality. The boy's eyes widened in shock and anger. Naruto grit his teeth as he clenched his fists. He knew that Snake Man sounded familiar for some reason. Even though he didn't pay that stuff any mind back then, he did remember hearing drunken men saying something about the snake bastard or traitorous snake. Now he knows what they were talking about. So that Snake Man is Orochimaru, huh? Naruto asked, his pupil turning into a slit. I don't care how powerful this guy is, the moment I see him, he's going to. He stopped talking and went into a trance-like state. Naruto? Kia asked curiously. Zane waved a hand in front of the dazed Naruto's face. He even snapped his fingers to get his attention. Hey, the hell are you 3 doing back there? Kankuro asked rudely. He and his siblings had to stop walking because the 3 foreigners stopped as well. Hurry up, we don't have all day. Will you hold on? Kia said, glaring at him before glancing at Naruto. I think Naruto might be having a vision. The vision? Temari asked curiously. Like he's seeing into the future or something. Kia shook her head and looked at the dazed guardian. Not the future. He's seeing what Vayu is seeing right now. This happened before with an eye. It was true. Naruto could clearly see what Vayu 4 is seeing. The evolved wind chaos was at an old ruin of sorts, sitting on top of a destroyed building. Vayu 4 suddenly glared angrily at something in the distance. He stood up and gave a very loud screech as his wings spread open before he took off to the sky, heading somewhere. That somewhere? It was their current location. Naruto gasped and shook his head. Vayu is coming. Everyone, except for Gaara, wore surprised expressions as they looked at the cloud-covered sky. They soon heard a faint screech that was getting closer and closer to them before it stopped. The group narrowed their eyes at the clouds as they heard nothing but silence. Suddenly, an energy ball shot out and was heading towards Gaara, who hadn't moved an inch. Gaara, look out, Naruto called out to him. The energy ball hit Gaara before sand came out of the gourd and surrounded him, blocking the energy ball and causing a burst of powerful wind to erupt as it slightly made the others, except Gaara, cover their faces. Once it died down, Team Chaos stared at Gaara with surprised expressions, watching as the sand from his gourd surrounded him in a circle. "What the hell?" Naruto asked in surprise. "Please tell me I'm not the only one who saw that." "We all saw it," Zane said, equally stunned. "The sand protected him?" Kia asked in a puzzled tone. What sort of jutsu was that? This was the first time she's ever seen anyone manipulate sand before, and Gaara used it to actually protect him. She hated to admit it, but shinobi really are something else. Everyone looked up to the sky as Veiu 4 made his appearance among the now open clouds. The wind chaos gave a screech and charged at them. But the Fukankuro was about to swear before Veiu 4 flew past them, making nearly everyone duck slightly and was now flying above them. "Okay, so this thing definitely looks more powerful than when we last saw it. Hey, you said Ugly here had a weakness that was shared with the others, right?" Temari asked Naruto as she took a fighting stance. "What the hell is it?" Team Chaos looked up at the large bird-like creature that is Veiu, and they couldn't help but smirk at each other. "It's simple," Zane said with his eyes glowing a slight orange. Kia pounded her fists together. "Very simple really. All we gotta do is attack." Naruto stares up at Veiu 4 before a grin forms on his face. His brain. The moment he finished saying that, he and Zane had instantly transformed. Naruto in his chaos form and Zane in a whole new armor. This armor's color was mostly orange, black and silver, with a white vertical stripe going down his torso. It's much sleeker and more fluid than the previous two armors, and there is less segmentation in the suit overall. It also had a pair of orange wings, but the wings themselves looked like they were holographic. The armor's hands looked like they were missile launchers, and the centerpiece had a unique symbol on it. B-104. Armor mode initiated. Zane spoke up as he opened his now glowing orange eyes. The Sand siblings, Gaara included, looked at the two of them with widened eyes. What the hell were they seeing? Was this some sort of Kekkei Genkai or something? What was up with that strange high-tech armor that Zane wore with the strange-looking wings? The trio then turned their attention to Naruto. "What the hell, that form, he looks like," Kankuro said, his mind flashing back to when they first saw Veiu attacking them that day. "Who the hell are these guys?" Temari whispered to herself as she looked at each of them with widened eyes. Gaara remained silent as he stared at Naruto. Now he knows why the demon inside him was reacting to that boy. Because his presence is extremely similar to the monster that was in front of them. The inner demon whispered to Gaara, telling him to help the blue one get rid of the wind demon. After that, he can kill Naruto. Slowly, a maniac-like grin starts to form on his face as he continues staring at Naruto before turning his attention to Veiu 4. Insert fight song. Not Afraid instrumental. Veiu 4 gave the battle screech once again, only this time he launched a torrent of wind out of his mouth, causing the group to jump away. Naruto landed on the ground and raised his hands at Veiu 4, with Kia doing the same thing. Take this, they unleashed their attack on Veiu 4 in the form of two energy balls. The wind chaos immediately flew out of the way and was flying around them, launching many attacks at the grounded duo who were avoiding them. "I got him," Zane said as he flew after Veiu 4, leaving behind a trail of glowing orange lights. He aimed his launchers at Veiu 4 and fired multiple missiles at him, only for the wind chaos to avoid them. "Hey, wait for us, handsome," Temari called out, her and Kankuro riding on a sand platform that Gaara made. As the four took to the sky, Zane aimed his missile launchers at Veiu 4 and fired at him. The missiles landed hits on Veiu 4, causing him to screech out and turn to glare at him. The wind chaos spread its arms out as it summoned multiple glowing spears in the air around him. The weapons pointed at Zane and the Sand siblings before they were launched at them. Zane and the Sand team quickly flew out of the weapons' range, only to see that they were following them. Zane's eyes widened in surprise before he looked forward and continued to fly faster. He looked back at the glowing spears, only to see a water tentacle wrapped around them as they disappeared. He looked down and saw Naruto looking up at him with a grin and thumbs up, causing the cyborg to grin back and give his own thumbs up. Gaara did a hand sign as a sand shield blocked the spears that were chasing them, his eyes not leaving Veiu 4's form. He summoned Sand Shuriken and launched them at Veiu 4's brain. The evolved wind chaos knocked them away using his wings. Kankuro, Temari called out, drawing out her giant fan. "I'm on it," Kankuro nodded as he pulled the wraps around the package behind his back, showing Team Chaos what he was carrying. "What the hell is that?" Naruto asked, looking quite puzzled. "It looks like a puppet," Kia stated, narrowing her eyes slightly. Looking at it, the puppet resembles a three-eyed, four-armed humanoid with jagged teeth and a spiky brown hairstyle, protruding from the top of its head and framing the sides. They watched as Kankuro's puppet came to life due to him moving his hands around. Their eyes widened in awe as the puppet blew out a stream of fire, with Temari using her fan to generate a gust of wind to make the flames bigger and stronger. "Awesome," Naruto and Kia muttered. The flames surrounded Veifor, causing him to screech out and try to blow the fire off him, which only made things worse for him as the flames got stronger. He fell to the ground, giving Naruto and Kia a chance to attack. The two quickly jumped into attack only to see the sand below them move and grab Veifor, making it screech once again as it struggled to get out of the sand. It screeched once more before Veifor was covered in sand. Sand burial. The sand exploded, taking Veifor with it as his remains fell to the ground with the glowing lights of the emeralds floating. Naruto blinks in amazement. Damn, the Kazuki-age wasn't kidding. His kids are pretty amazing. I'll say. Kia replied. Indeed. Zane said, hovering behind his friends. Team Chaos looked up to see the sand siblings heading their way. The platform melded with the sand below as they landed on the ground, looking at Veifor's remains. Well, that wasn't so hard. Tamari smirked. I thought you guys said it was powerful. Kankuro chuckled, turning to Team Chaos, but was interrupted by a very loud and angry screech. He sweated nervously as he turned back to a completely reformed Veifor, who was glaring at them with his eyes glowing. He sounds mad. Veifor gave a screech as a powerful gust of wind surrounded him. He instantly vanished into the wind only to reappear in front of Kankuro, with his weapon drawn and covered in cyan energy. But Kankuro cried out in alarm before he and his puppet was blown away by a powerful energy slash that not only made him gain a deep cut going down his torso, it also destroyed his puppet in pieces. Kankuro Tamari cried out as she turned to face attack Veifor, only for him to use his wings to summon a powerful gust of wind that blew her and Team Chaos away, except for the unmoving Gaara. The wind chaos flew at Tamari, getting her undivided attention as she saw his wings glowing. The wings released streams of cyan X-shaped blades from the tips, causing Tamari to bring out her fan to try and block it, only for the attack to knock the fan out of her hand and make her stumble while in air. Shit, the elder sibling cursed, watching as her fan landed on the ground. That moment of distraction caused Veifor to grab her by her neck. Tamari struggled to get out of his grip only to cough as his grip tightened around her neck. Let her go. Veifor looked back to see Kia and Zane, who had chaos in his hands, heading towards him. Tamari, seeing Veifor was distracted, reached into her pouch and took out her kunai to stab his brain. However, before she could, Veifor spun around in the air and headed towards them. He put his other hand on Tamari's stomach and launched her a Kia via a gust of wind, which caused the island princess to get knocked out of the air and sent both of them falling towards the ground. Tamari see Naruto called out before he glared at Veifor. That does it, Zane, throw me up at the sun, I got an idea. Spotted Zane threw the guardian in the air, causing Veifor to stop and look up at him, only to close his eyes at the glare from the sun, not seeing Naruto's figure heading towards him. The demigod fell on Veifor's back and latched onto him. Whoa, the wind chaos started to fly around trying to get him off his back. This only made Naruto hold him tighter, using his limbs to hold him tight and steady. Zane, hurry up and take him out while I hold him. Now understanding what Naruto was up to, Zane's left hand transformed into a missile launcher as he held it with his other hand to aim directly at the wind chaos's brain. Once he got a clear enough shot while making extra sure he wasn't aiming at Naruto, he fired the missile. Veifor's eyes widened comically at seeing the missile getting closer towards him before he gained a devious idea. Down below, Gaara remained where he was as he continued to watch what was going on in the sky. His gaze remained focused on Naruto and Veifor, not paying attention to his unconscious siblings and the dazed Kia on the ground. He saw the strange weapon Zane had launched heading towards them, but then Veifor suddenly turned around, exposing Naruto's, and the missile exploded upon impact. He heard Zane call out Naruto's name while he watched his body fall and land on the ground in puddles of water. Gaara looked back at Veifor as he fought Zane in the air. The sand user used his sand to create a large sand shuriken above his head, watching as Veifor grabbed the armored Zane and released a cyan energy ball that sent him crashing to the ground. Giant sand shuriken. He unshed the shuriken at high speed towards the wind chaos. The shuriken managed to land a direct hit at Veifor's brain, causing him to burst and fall to the ground, landing right in front of the sand shinobi. Gaara watched as Veifor reformed in front of him on his knees. Well, is that really the best you can do? Gaara asked, looking down at the wind chaos as though he was a waste of his time. Veifor had an angry glare on his face as he looked at the uncaring human. He knew that there was something different about the boy who controlled sand. His instincts were telling him that he was also a threat that needed to be quickly taken care of, and his abilities proved it, especially with that sand defense that also appeared around him whenever he attacked him. But everything has its limits. The wind chaos flew up and summoned the light blue color tornado that surrounded Gaara, who still looked uncaring. That is, until something shot out of the tornado and hit his shield, surprising him slightly as he felt his shield break. He looked around several times as he felt more wind pressure attacking him, each one being more powerful than the last. The last one became so powerful that it broke through his sand defense and hit him right in the face, blowing his head back. But that didn't stop the ongoing attack as he kept getting hit by each wind pressure around his body. Up above, Veu4 watched this happen with satisfaction. Just like he thought. Well, that boy's sand shield does protect him from any and all attacks, it can't protect him from any attacks that move faster than the sand could react in time. The wind chaos summoned ferocious winds into his hand and started to gather energy around it, coating it in a green aura. He was about to throw it until a loud voice distracted him. "Hey Veu," it was Chaos's voice. "You need to chill out, Chaos Bind." Veu4 was frozen in place, still holding his position in the air while the energy vanished. Flying above him were Zane and a floating Kia as they held onto Naruto's hands, now in his frost form. "Shoulda paid more attention to us." Naruto laughed. "Now guys, while he's frozen." Right, Kia and Zane smirks as they throw the guardian demigod further in the air. Kia dives towards Veu4 as her feet begin to glow with chaos energy. She spun around in the air as she landed a powerful axe kick on Veu4's back, sending him falling to the ground. Zane was already on the ground, his missile launchers aimed at the falling Veu4. He fired the twin missiles at the wind chaos as they landed a direct hit on his stomach, the powerful explosion making him bounce back into the air and float. Veu4's frozen body was now faced upwards, the hot sun glaring down on his form. The time limit for his frozen state is almost up as his body started to move slightly. But it was too late as Naruto, in his regular form, was already heading down at him, his balled up fist glowing. "It's over," Naruto called out. "I will save you from the darkness, open your heart and reach out to me, Veu." Music end. The demigod punched Veu4's face and both were sent falling to the ground at high speed. As they were on their way to the ground, something within Veu4's reacted to his words with everything around him moving in slow motion. Inside his mind, the true Veu was still struggling with the darkness, trying so hard to fight it and be free. But then, much to his surprise, he saw a bright blue light heading his way. That light transformed itself and revealed it was Naruto, who was glowing blue. Naruto raised his hand towards Veu, who did the same thing. The moment their hands touched each other, the darkness around them disappeared, leading them into Naruto's dream world. The glowing demigod smiles happily at Veu, who did the same thing with his own way of smiling. Out in the real world, Veu4 blinks and looks up at the smiling Naruto as light returns to his eyes. The evolved wind chaos smiled as well, making Naruto's smile widened as well. "Thank you." They landed with a loud crash that made a cloud of dust and sand appear and shook the area around them. The tornado that surrounded Gaara completely vanished, which only showed a big ball made out of sand. Nearby, Kia and Zane, who had just gotten out of his armor, went to get to Mari and Kankuro. They tried to get to Gaara, but were confused when they saw the ball of sand, which they concluded was another form of his defense. Once they were together, Kia immediately got to work on healing Kankuro's injury. She jumped for a moment when they heard the loud crash and looked up at the cloud of dust while still doing her work on Kankuro. Naruto, Kia called out in worry as she and Zane watched the cloud of dust. Their eyes widened slightly as they saw a blue light erupt from within the dust that made it disappear, only for it to reveal a blue Chao cocoon with a gentle cyan-colored wind softly dancing around it. The Chao cocoon disappeared to reveal Naruto in a new form. His whole body is the same color as Veu with minor differences. His arms and legs had swirling blue wind designs on them, along with small wings attached to the forearms and his feet. The protrusions on his head were dancing up and down slightly as though the wind was moving them. In his left hand, he held a unique-looking double-bladed lance, even though it looked like a pair of slightly curved swords attached to each other. The blades were light blue color with the edge being a lighter color. The blades also had wind symbols on the middle lengths, which made it seem like they were coming out of the twin glowing light blue crystals that were on the deep blue pommels attached to the blades. The handle was colored blue. Naruto looked at the weapon in his hand, then at himself with an awestruck expression. While doing so, he unconsciously summoned wind below his feet, which made him float in the air, catching him by surprise as he comically moved his arms up and down, trying to gain his balance while also dropping his new weapon. Once he gained his balance, he looked down at the wind below his feet as his face changed from stun to excitement. He looked at his stunned friends, then back at the wind as he trembled. Yahoo! Insert song. Pop instrumental by NSYNC. Naruto jumped high air and did something that amazed his friends. He was flying through the sky, leaving behind a trail. They could hear his very loud cheering as he dived down, went up and was spinning around the sky, having the time of his life. Oh man, look guys, I'm flying, I'm really flying, he cheered happily as he stopped for a moment, only to air dash forward by a flurry of wind that covered him. Holy chow, I can do that, awesome. Looks like he's having fun. Zane said in amusement, watching Naruto dashed in the air while still flying, so he can continue to gain momentum. Kia giggles from what Zane said, also watching Naruto have fun in the air as she picks up the 4 Chaos Emeralds, causing them to vanish. I'll say. It's like this is his first time flying. Eichel's incarnate didn't realize it yet, but she was correct in her assumption. This was the first time in Naruto's life that he managed to fly like this. Even though he always leaps from high places and rode his custom extreme gear, it didn't feel the same as doing it yourself. After all, Naruto saw Chaos do it from his memories, but for some reason, he couldn't do it. No matter how many times he tried to fly, or glide in this case, he just couldn't ride the wind like Chaos and Knuckles. He didn't even know why he couldn't do it. But now he can finally ride the wind by himself. No gear, no nothing. See, Naruto stopped flying and stayed aloft in midair. Looking around the vast open desert. He brought his index finger and thumb to his lips and released a very loud whistle that echoed out the area. Oh man, this is so awesome. The newly transformed wind-style demigod cheered once again. He dropped to the ground and called forth his double-bladed weapon. He spun his new weapon in his hands, switching between them as wind gathered around the blades, causing it to glow a turquoise color. Amazingly, he pulled the double-bladed weapon apart, thereby making them a pair of swords. He threw the pair in the air, causing them both to release a spinning energy attack that was launched into the clouds and dispersed a second later in the form of a tornado, making them disappear and have the area covered in a cyan light for a brief moment. Like a boomerang, the pair weapon returned to see Naruto, who jumped in the air while spinning, catching them both as he landed and did a finishing pose. Like the legendary blue blur, swift as the wind. Introducing Sonic Cyclone, yeah, believe it. Song ends. Sonic Cyclone disappeared from see Naruto hands as he returned to normal. He looked down at his pendant and was a bit surprised by what he saw. Examining more closely, he noticed how the silver ring around the cross had turned gold, while the cross itself started turning gold starting from the center. The three diamond shapes that held the colored crystals red, white and light blue were now colored gold, with the one on the upper right corner still silver. My pendant is changing. Wow, I can't believe I never noticed it till now. Pretty cool, Naruto thought to himself as he released a small cheerful chuckle while walking to his friends. Everyone okay? Yes. We are fine. Zane answered. I managed to heal Kankuro's injury, and Temari is fine, she's just knocked out. Kia informed the Guardian before she frowned in confusion as she turned her head. But Gaara. The boys turned to her line of sight to see a big ball of sand. Naruto looked dumbfounded at that while Zane looked at it in curious suspicion. He's in there? The demigod asked in confusion. What is that anyway? Some sort of dome shield. Zane analyzed. He was surrounded by Vaeu's tornado, which tells us that he might have been attacked. Despite being annoyed by Gaara's emotionless attitude and his earlier suspicions of him, Naruto looked impressed at the dome shield. He was also curious about his ability to control sand. But still, it was over now, so there was no reason for him to put it up. The demigod walked towards the sand dome, but stopped when Kia grabbed his arm, making him turn to her and blinked at the worried look she was giving him. Wait, I got a bad feeling about this. Tychels Incarnate said, looking at the sand dome as she let go of his arm. The image of the monster from before appeared in her mind. There's something different about Gaara, and it's not just his ability to manipulate sand. Wanting to ease her worries, Naruto smiles in reassurance, even though he knows there was something different about Gaara too. Don't worry, I'll be fine. He walked towards the dome with Kia and Zane watching him. Damn, that hurts. Kankuro's hissed voice reached their ears as they turned to see him sit up while touching his healed injury. He wasn't the only one as Temari herself woke up and was rubbing her head. Temari, Kankuro, you're awake, Kia said in surprise and relief. Are you okay? Ichi? Temari said in a sarcastic tone, trying to ease the minor headache she has. What the hell happened? The mission is complete. Vaeu has been defeated. Zane replied. Yeah? And where is it? Kankuro asked the ancient human. Naruto absorbed him. Kia answered, earning confused looks from the two siblings. We'll explain later. Naruto went to get your little brother, who's inside the sand dome. What Temari and Kankuro asked as they turned to where this dome of sand was to see a comical-looking Naruto poking at it. Scared looks appeared on their faces. Oh shit, this is bad, Kankuro exclaimed as he ignored the painful feeling of his chest to stand on his knee while surprising Kia and Zane by what he said. No, that damn thing woke it up, Temari said fearfully. What do you mean? Kia asked, though it sounded more like a demand. She grabbed the older girl's shoulders. What did Vaeu wake up? Zane didn't bother to wait for an answer as he turned to Naruto, who was poking at the sand dome. Naruto, get away from Gaara now. Huh? Naruto looked at his friends in confusion, not paying attention to the hole that opened up in front of him. He turns back to see a large monster's hand stretch out to grab him around his torso and covers his mouth. HMM. Naruto, Zane and Kia called out as they raced to their friend, who was trying to get out of the monster's grip. The Guardian grits his teeth as he struggled to get out of whatever the hell this thing was. He could feel the thing's grip get tighter before he decided to turn himself into a body of water, making the hand fall to the ground as it slowly retreated back into the hole. Naruto reformed himself the moment it did with his friends appearing at his side. Are you okay? Kia asked. Yeah. Naruto said as he rubbed his neck, watching as the arm retreated back inside the dome. He glared fiercely at it. Hey, what the hell was that for Gaara? No. Zane shook his head, staring at the hole with a battle-ready gaze. Whatever that was, it wasn't Gaara. Damari said Bayu woke something up when he attacked Gaara earlier. Kia said, a nervous expression on her face as she too stared at the hole. She thought her eyes were playing tricks on her because she saw something moving in that dome. But she knew better than that. She knew her eyes were working just fine. There was something else inside there and it wasn't human. A single eye appeared in the hole as it glared at them. A second later, a very loud roar erupted from within the dome as it shook the area around them and caused a very strong wind to appear around it. Due to how close they were to it, everyone was forced to cover their ears from it and hold their ground. The roar stopped and everyone uncovered their ears, their full attention on the dome as the eye was looking at them. Kia, Tamari and Kankuro looked scared, Zane looked tensed, while Naruto looked a bit creeped out and startled. No, Gaara, Tamari said. Damn it. Kankuro said, shaking slightly. We gotta get out of here. Now, Naruto stared at the demonic-looking eye before his eyes slowly widened. He recalled something the old man had taught him about Jinchuriki. Something very important that had made him want to smack his forehead at his careless stupidity for very getting something as important as this. I'm such an idiot, Naruto said. Naruto? Kia asked, wondering why he smacked himself on the head. What's wrong? Naruto swallowed his spit, not taking his eyes off the dome. I just remembered something about Jinchuriki. One important fact about them that it's been a tradition since the founding of the villages. What is it? Zane asked, slowly getting into a fighting stance, his eyes not leaving the single eye that was glaring at each of them. In order to strengthen a Jinchuriki's bond with their village, Naruto explained slowly as his hands morphed into claws. The Jinchuriki themselves has to be related to their village's cage. His friends looked at him in shock, before the shock turned into realization as they turned back to the dome, only to see cracks starting to form around it. Oh no, Kia said, now understanding why she had the vision of that monster from earlier. Naruto Kaosu. A slightly demonic insane voice called out. Naruto Kaosu, your blood. Mother wants. Everyone tensed up once they saw the dome start to break apart before it shattered and turned to sand. What they saw in front of them made everyone gasp in shock and disbelief. For Gaara had turned into a human-sized monster with only his legs still being human. He was also grinning madly at the shocked Naruto before he dashed at him. Your blood. Chapter 10. Land of Waves. Tazuna's house. Inside Tazuna's house in the guest room, Kushina was looking outside the window, watching as Tsunami and Inari were happily cleaning out the front yard, clearly enjoying each other's company. Her eyes that were full of hope at the chance of meeting her son again were now dull and lifeless after hearing from Tazuna that Naruto has a new family. Looking out at Tsunami and Inari made her remember the good times of when the triplets were toddlers, her and Minato playing with them every day. She also remembered when Naruto would always jump her by surprise, as his bright happy laugh filled her ears which she would join in. But after that, those happy memories with Naruto slowly disappeared and now filled with sad regretful memories of what she had done to him. Because of that, he ran away and now got himself a new family. Kushina took her eyes off the mother and son duo, not wanting to be reminded of her failure, and looked at the picture that was of Naruto and his friends, all of them smiling towards the camera. She picked it up and stared at Naruto's beautiful smiling face, tracing her thumb across his cheek. Oh, how she missed seeing that smile. He always smiled at her whenever he saw her. Even when she wasn't paying attention to him, he would always try to smile just to get her and Minato's attention, including doing all those pranks around the village. And what did they do? They ignored him, turned their backs on him when he needed them the most. Now they lost him and worst of all, they were replaced. Naruto the Uzumaki matriarch said his name as she hugged the picture close to her chest. She hated this. She hated waiting like this. She wanted her baby boy back to tell him how sorry she was for all the things she's done to him. He's out there facing powerful monsters, even though they did come from him, and probably ninja that were even more powerful than the demon of the mist, and here she is waiting for him to come back on the day when Tazuna finishes his bridge. But the old man was right. Naruto and his friends were traveling the great countries fighting against these chaos warriors. So even if they did follow them, there was still bad blood between the Leaf and other major shinobi villages, especially between her and the Cloud village when they tried to kidnap her all those years ago. Then there were the Jinchuriki. Oh gods above, she hoped and prayed her son didn't run into any of them, especially the Sans Jinchuriki, since she heard horrifying rumors about him. Ms. Kushina. The wife of the fourth looked up to see Shizune at the door. We have a message from Lord Fourth. We're waiting for you. Right. Kushina said as she stood up, pocketing the photo in her Chunin vest pocket as she followed after Shizune. For now, all she can do is hope and pray that Naruto is safe. Land of wind. Desert. Their blood. Whoa, Naruto quickly jumped back as the transformed Gaara slammed his fist into the sand. However, the moment his feet touched the sand, Naruto gave a startled yell as a hand made of sand rose and grabbed his whole body, leaving only his neck exposed before he got covered in it. The possessed Gaara grins happily at the catch of his prey. But before he could do anything, he used his tail to block an incoming kick courtesy of Kia, who was glaring at him. "Stop it, Gaara, your weak move," Gaara roared out as he swiped Kia away. He heard something whistling towards him, making him look to the side only to get pushed back by a beam of blue energy. He snarls at the one who attacked, which was Zane, both his metallic arms raised towards him. The possessed Jinchuriki was about to charge at him but felt something coming from below. He jumped back to dodge an uppercut to the face by an enlarged fist made of water. Naruto popped out of the sand and examined Gaara's transformation with a slightly creeped out look on his face. "So I was right after all. Gaara is the Jinchuriki of the One Tail, no wonder why I've been getting strange vibes from him." Indeed. Zane appeared next to him, now in his E-123 armor, his arms raised and aimed at the snarling Gaara. "So that's a real-life Jinchuriki. Never thought I would meet one so soon." "No kidding," Kia said, taking a stand next to Naruto as she took a fighting stance. "Any ideas?" "Yeah," Naruto said, narrowing his eyes as his hands turned into claws. "Kick his ass before he fully transforms." "Go ahead and try," Gaara roared at him as the trio charged forward. He swiped his hands and launched several shuriken made of sand. Sand shuriken. Water shuriken. Naruto launched his own shuriken, though they were infused with chaos energy. Both versions of shurikens clashed with each other as they each dispersed, which made Gaara growl at them as they got ready to attack. Wind style. Sandstorm devastation. Gaara exhaled a powerful wind that was mixed in with sand. The resulting sandstorm covered the wide area in front of him that made Team Chaos stop and cover their faces, except for Zane since he was wearing armor. The sandstorm pushed them back, which is what Gaara wanted as he made a mad dash at the closest one, which was Zane. He stretched his arm out and grabbed Zane's armored leg as he pulled him towards him. The one-tailed Jinchuriki laughed madly as he slammed the armored teen on the ground multiple times, making cracks form on the ground and on his armor. "Zane," his friends called out. Naruto punched the ground and unleashed a pillar of water that knocked Gaara back, making him release Zane. "I got him," Kia said, activating her chaos boost, took this chance and dashed towards Gaara while bowling her fist up as she gathered energy. Chaos boost. Wrath of Gaia. Gaara looked up at Kia but grit his teeth as she punched him in his stomach. The power of the punch sent a shockwave that shook Gaara's whole body and made sand fly in the air. Kia wasn't done yet as she launched a flurry of punches and then performed a combo of strikes that made it look like she was moving very fast. She landed on Gaara's head, jumping off his head and doing a mid-air spin charge as she gathered more energy. Once she's charged enough, she does a powerful spin dash, making herself look like a shooting star. Shooting star fury. The dazed Gaara looked up in time and got hit by the powerful looking attack as it landed a direct hit on his head and sent them both into the ground, causing sand to erupt and a crater to be formed. Nearby, Naruto's jaw dropped in comical shock as he stared at the cloud of sand, along with the blue sparkles that appeared after Kia finished her attack. Holy chaos. The Master Emerald seriously gave Kia a huge level up, it looked like she's been working on that combo for some time, and he was awestruck by it. He also saw the fist-shaped dents Kia made to Gaara's body, which oddly enough reminded him of Knuckles' own unique super strength that would cause something like that, and her speedy movement somewhat reminded him of Sonic and Shadow. "Okay. I will never piss Kia off." Naruto deadpanned to himself. The Sand siblings themselves were also awestruck by Kia's mysterious form and her incredible unique power. But they knew that it wouldn't be enough to stop Gaara in this state. Kia. Naruto set an alarm. Gaara slowly rose from the crater, his large hand holding onto Kia, who was out of her chaos boost state, by her neck as he choked the life out of her. She grit her teeth and tried to kick his chin, but it had no effect. The Jinchuriki mockingly laughed at her attempt to get out of his grip before he slammed her to the ground, making her eyes widen in pain as she coughed out blood due to how hard the blow was. He then summoned to wrap itself around her body. "Is that really all you got, girl?" the possessed Jinchuriki asked, the sand squeezing her as she cried out painfully after feeling some bones cracking in her body. "I told you to move aside, but it looks like I'll have to kill you to teach you a lesson." Kia continued to let out a loud cry as Gaara's sand continued to squeeze her tighter and tighter to the point where she was starting to cough out blood. Gaara laughed madly at her, but then stopped when he felt a devastating kick across his face that forced his head to the side. His eyes moved to see who attacked him, and he saw the snarling face of Naruto, now in his frost form, with a scythe in his hand, as the blade had a mist around it. Using his momentum, Naruto turns to Gaara's arm that was holding Kia and cuts it clean off, causing it to fall to the ground, while at the same time kicking Gaara's stomach to push him back. He grabbed Kia and jumped away as Zane fired multiple missiles at Gaara, sending him flying back with Naruto, freezing him in a block of ice. The arm and sand that held Kia became frozen solid due to the scythe. Naruto quickly destroyed it with a quick chop, dropping his scythe and held Kia gently, wiping the blood that was leaking out of her mouth. "Kia, are you okay?" "Why yeah." Kia spoke in a pained voice. Gaara, he's just too strong in that state. Sorry guys. Guess I underestimated him a little bit. Don't worry about that. See, Naruto told her. Yes. Zane agreed, joining them, looking at Gaara. The power of a Jinchuriki, it truly is something else. Kia agreed before she gritted her teeth as the pain came back. That last attack took a lot out of me. You have to stop him before she closed her eyes and lost consciousness. Don't worry. We will. See, Naruto told her. He grabbed Zane's hand and teleported to where Temari and Kankuro were. You two. Go with Zane and head back to the village. Now. The way he spoke and seeing his expression told them that he was not playing around. Temari took a firm stance and glared at Naruto. No way, that's our little brother and we're afraid. Naruto coldly interrupted her, shocking the siblings by what he said as he glared back at the two, his eyes glowing slightly. Don't think I didn't notice the looks you've been sending him since you've joined us. You two are scared of him and can't do anything but stand there like you're gonna piss your pants. If that's how it's going to be, then just go back to your village and let me knock some sense into him. Now go. Temari looked ready to argue again, but Kankuro placed a hand on her shoulder, shaking his head at her. The older sister looked down before she nodded at Naruto as she threw her fan up in the air. She took Kia out of Naruto's hand and jumped on her, had already switched to his Epsilon armor, and went to grab Kankuro. He turns to Naruto, a dead serious look on his covered face as he glances at Gaara before turning back to him. Once I drop them off, I'll be coming right back to help you. The guardian nodded, watching as Zane and Temari flew off back to the village. His eyes narrowed in a glare when he heard the roar of anger coming from behind him. He looked over his shoulder to see Gaara glaring at him. It's just you and me now. He said as he turned to face him, cracking his knuckles. Hope you're ready, because I'm going to beat shit out of you for what you did to my friends. Friends? Gaara laughed at Naruto mockingly before scowling in disgust at him. You're fighting for them? What a joke, that's why you will not win against me. As long as you fight for the sake of others, you'll never advance beyond this level. Forget about your friends and fight for yourself. All these emotions such as friendship, love and loyalty only makes you weak. Friends make you weak. Fight for myself and forget them. Naruto asked in a whisper, his voice increasing in anger. What the hell is wrong with you? You're insane if you seriously think that friends don't make you weak. Memories of him meeting Chaos, Amachao, the creatures of Angel Island, Kia and her loved ones, and Zane flashed in his head. They help you become a better person, help you become stronger and always be there for you when you need them the most. It's thanks to my friends that I've gotten this far. They're not and will never be a weakness, they're your strength, and I'll prove it here in this fight. Is that so? Gaara growled out. Then show me that strength of yours. Battle music. Strong and strike, Naruto asked. Of pleasure, Naruto growled as he cupped his hands together making a blue sphere of energy. Chaos Pulse, the guardian, threw the ball at Gaara, who laughed at it and tried to block it. Just what the hell is that little attack going to? The moment the blue sphere touched him, it exploded into a wave of water that completely covered him, his body being completely dripping wet. What the hell? Gaara asked before he felt a punch from his chin that sent him in the air and a swift kick that knocked him away before he got hit again, this time crashing to the ground. He tried to attack the guardian only to see nothing. Where are you? Right here, Naruto replied from behind Gaara as he grabbed his tail with one hand, much to the nearly transformed Jinchuriki's shock. Let's go for a little spin. Thanks to his super strength, he was able to lift Gaara up with ease and spun him around in place. He threw the Jinchuriki in the air and instantly teleported above him. The guardian gathered more energy in his hands and put them together. Hydroblast, a powerful jet of water knocked Gaara back down to the ground, making him bounce off several feet off its surface. But Naruto wasn't done yet as he dashed at the nearly transformed Jinchuriki, his tail growing longer and now gaining a blue aura, with the tip being shrouded with energy. He slammed his tail into Gaara, slamming him back down, earning a growl of annoyance. Naruto then spun around and used his tail to smack Gaara across his face, making him fly back and roll on the ground before he stopped himself using his hands. Naruto Kaosu. Gaara roars angrily, feeling his sand become heavier because of the water and getting annoyed by his attacking him. He glared at the guardian as he rode a wave of water. Wind style. Great breakthrough. A powerful gust of wind shot out of his mouth and blew Naruto back, making him scream out. He flips in the air and lands on his feet. He turns to Gaara only to gasp slightly as the Jinchuriki already dashed at him and hit his stomach using his head, making him slide back. Damn, he hits hard. Whoa, Naruto thought before liquefying himself to avoid a swiping claw. Hum on Naruto Kaosu. Gaara laughed as he continued to attack Naruto, who continued to block and avoid his swiping claws. Didn't you say you were gonna show me your power? Heh. Naruto smirks as he turns himself into a puddle, making Gaara look down at it in confusion. Suddenly, a giant mouth with shark teeth suddenly shot out of the puddle as it grabbed his face. But the mouth soon turned into a hand as it slammed him back to the ground and he felt a powerful kick to his face that sent him sliding backwards. You want to see my power that badly? See Naruto asked in a serious tone as he took a stance. Fine then. I'll show it to you. The Guardian let out a yell as a bluish-green energy aura erupted from his being which shook the ground around them and caused the rocks to float as sand swirled below his feet. The wild raw power that he released was enough to push Gaara back as he looked at it with shock and confusion. The beast inside him was no different as it too looked confused. What the hell was this? The energy that the water brat unleashed wasn't chakra, it can tell because it knows and feels what chakra is like, since it's made of chakra. What the hell is this power? The tailed beast and its Jinchuriki watched as the mysterious unknown energy started to take the form of a reptilian-esque creature as it roared at them. The intense aura slowly simmered down until it surrounded See Naruto, his eyes glowing. Here I come. Gaara's eyes widened as See Naruto instantly vanished from his view. He growled and looked around for him. Where did you go now? Are you hiding from me like a coward? I'm here. Gaara's eyes widened as he felt a fist connect to the side of his face, making saliva come out of his mouth. But the onslaught didn't stop there as the possessed Jinchuriki felt powerful multiple blows connect to every part of his body. Those blows were actually damaging him because the sand on his body became heavier and heavier. He roared in anger as he tried to swipe and attack him even though he wasn't there. Special technique See Naruto appeared below him and gave him an enhanced uppercut that sent him launching in the air. He created 3 clones as each of them gathered chaos energy in their hands and teleported above Gaara before delivering heavy hits on his body. Naruto. The original finished it with a punch that unleashed a blast of energy that sent Gaara crashing to the ground as he bounced off its surface. Chaos the Guardian and his clones teleported in front of Gaara as they morphed back into the original. Perfect Zero. Sword mode appeared in his hands as it glows incredibly bright. He swipes his sword and unleashes waves of chaos energy. Barrage, MK. 1. The waves struck Gaara as they made deep scratch marks appear on his body, while at the same time, cutting off his arms, making his eyes widen in disbelief before he used his tail to block the last one. The Jinchuriki landed on the ground and huffed in anger and annoyance, glaring hatefully at See Naruto. Why? Why the hell couldn't he kill the bastard? He just doesn't understand it. Wasn't he stronger than him? He was a shinobi and elite, yet this boy, a wanderer with no affiliation with any of the villages, suddenly shows up and is actually beating him. How? Naruto Kyosu. Gaara was going to attack him, but then noticed something glowing below his feet. He looked down and saw small green balls directly right below him. What the hell is this? Hearing a whistle made him turn to boom. The energy balls glowed brightly, making Gaara look down in shock before he let out a scream. A large explosion erupted from the balls, completely covering the Jinchuriki in smoke. See Naruto narrowed his eyes at the cloud, but then fell on his knees, the energy covering him disappearing as he took deep breaths. He looked down at his hands and saw it was briefly returning to normal. Shit. I'm almost completely out. This is something Naruto knew he had to be careful about. Even though he has the powers of a godlike being, he's still human, and as much as he hates to admit it, even he has limits and weaknesses. One of those limits is him using his full power which would drain him of his stamina. It was worth it. The Guardian thought confidently. I can't believe my plan actually worked. He knew that because of that sand covering his upper body, his defense would be incredibly hard to break even when he's using his water to make his sand heavier to control. He's a Jinchuriki after all, so he has a large amount of chakra, but for Gaara that chakra was meant for defense purposes, so even he couldn't keep it up for long. But instead of waiting for him to drain his chakra, he decided to do the opposite. Find the weakness to his defense which was his lower section. The smoke eventually cleared up and showed a badly damaged Gaara, just as the Guardian thought. It's over now, Gaara. See Naruto told him as he stood up after regaining his breathing. Give up, you lost. Gaara glared at him in anger as he trembled. Him lose? Impossible, he never lost a fight against anyone. Was that unknown energy really his strength? Or was it what he said about his friends? Was that really his true power? Impossible, there's absolutely no way. He spoke up, his tone growing angrier with each word. I would lose to guy like you. You will die. Naruto Kyosu. Music ends. See Naruto's eyes widened from hearing the animalistic roar that came from Gaara. They widened further when he saw large amounts of sand gather up and completely surround Gaara, making a sand tornado that blocked him from view. More and more sand gathered around the tornado, making it even bigger than it already was that it made the Guardian jump back multiple times away from it. Once he got enough distance, he stopped and stared at it as he felt fear enter his heart. He hoped that the last attack would be able to knock him out at least since he was damaged, but it didn't. It woke up the beast. The fear in See Naruto's heart increased further when he heard a very loud roar from within the tornado, causing him to cover his ears, not paying attention to the explosion and the gigantic shadow that loomed over him. He opened his eyes and noticed the shadow, making him slowly look up and saw the creature that was glaring down at him. The sandy brown colored tanuki, with dark blue markings all over its face, body, and tail. It has a jagged concave mouth with no tongue, and the sclerae of its eyes are black, with yellower eyes and pupils that each take the shape of a black four-pointed star with 4 black dots around it. It was the one-tailed tanuki in all its glory. It let out another terrifying loud roar to let the hidden sand know that it has returned once again. Meanwhile, hidden sand village. Hospital. Amachao and Snow were currently in the little boy's room, resting on his bed while he slept peacefully. Snow was next to the boy's head, her paw on his forehead as she rubs it softly, watching as Amachao was walking back and forth, a worried expression on his face. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Where are they? They should be back by now. The advanced Robichao said. He's one worried little robot, isn't he? Snow thought to herself with a sheepish look on her face. But even she couldn't deny that she too was worried about them, especially when they were with that scary auburn-haired boy. Just thinking about him made her shiver. The snow-white single blue-haired cat looked out the window. I hope they're okay. She whispered softly so that Amachao wouldn't hear her. The commotion was heard coming from outside, making the duo look at the door in confusion. They turned to each other with confused expressions before the doors opened up, causing the Robichao and cat to jump in comical fright. They looked back and saw Zane and an unconscious injured Kia in his arms. Chio and another elder came in a second after. The second elder is a man that has heavy-lidded eyes that give him the appearance of actually having no eyes at all. He also has very long eyebrows that frame each side of his face. Along with a turban wrapped around his head, he wears the traditional hidden sand outfit, which consists of a dark-colored, loose-fitting outfit with a poncho-like top. Quickly bring her here, Chio told Zane as he nodded and brought Kia to the empty bed. Zane, Kia, oh my Chow, what happened? Amachao asked in shock and fear at Kia's state. Ara happened. Zane answered as he laid Kia down on the bed with Chio and the nurses that were still in the room already at work on checking her. We managed to beat Veu, yet due to him attacking Gara, he started to turn into a monster and attacked us. No, the elderly man gasped out, the hint of fear detected in his voice, while Chio grit her teeth in anger from hearing that. The retired sand ninja feared something like that would have happened. After seeing the powerful abilities it displayed during its visits to the village, she knew Gara would be able to take it down. But when she heard from the Kazakids that the wind demon evolved to an even more powerful form right after Kia and her friends tried to fight it, well, let's just say it's a miracle that she didn't get a heart attack from the fear she felt in her heart. Monster Gara turned into a monster, Amachao asked in shock, his emote turned into an exclamation mark. He then noticed someone in their group wasn't with them. Wait a second, where's Naruto? He's Briar. A very loud roar interrupted Zane as he was about to answer Amachao's question. The roar was so loud it left an echo that lasted a few seconds before it vanished. Everyone throughout the village, from human to animal except for the birds that flew away in fright, stopped what they were doing when they heard it. To the residents of the sand village, that roar had brought back painful, terrifying memories of what happened years ago, and it made them all pale. Because that roar was a signal. To let them know that the nightmare that has been here since the village's founding has returned. The beast has returned. Once that realization hit them, there was chaos and panic all around the village as everyone let out terrified screams, all of them shouting that one tail has been released. Hearing this from inside, Zane, Amachao and Snow looked outside the window and saw many people running around the village with a ninja, trying to calm them down. There were even people closing their stores down in order to go into hiding. No, the old man exclaimed, looking out in the distance from the window. It's happening again. Shukaku, the sand spirit, the demon that sleeps within Gara, is awake. Zane's eyes widened from hearing what the old man said. The one tail, then that means Naruto wasn't able to knock Gara out in time. I have to hurry. The cyborg was about to run out to the door before the old man stopped him. Wait, where are you going, son? I'm going to help my friend, Zane replied urgently, getting everyone's attention, including Chio as they stared at him in shock and disbelief. Huh? Amachao asked in shock. Naruto is out there fighting Gara, alone. Naya Snow meows loudly, a scared expression on her face. Say what? Hey, are you serious? The old man asked in disbelief. A child was out there fighting Shukaku by himself. Zane nodded and looked towards Amachao. I told Naruto I'd be back when I drop Kia and the others back in the village. Now that it's done, I'm going to help him deal with Shukaku. Zane. Everyone looked to the source of the tired voice and saw Kia weakly trying to sit up but was stopped by Chio, who placed her hands on her shoulders to gently push her back down. No, Kia, you need to rest up. I know, Ms. Chio. I just need to give him something. Kia said, her voice tired and painful. She raised her arm out, flinching and gritting her teeth from the pain. She ignored it and concentrated, summoning the 4 Chaos Emeralds, stunning Chio and the other nurses, along with Snow as she looked on in awe at them. The emeralds, give them to Naruto. She sent the emeralds towards Zane as they vanished around him. He nodded at her and ran out the room just as Kia lost consciousness again. Chio and her little brother Ibizo watched him go before turning to look at Kia, then towards Snow and Amachao. Hey sis, Ibizo started, now looking at her sister to show his astonished expression. Who exactly are these kids? Gio just shook her head. Right now too much was happening and she needed to focus on one thing, taking care of Kia. Hopefully the children will explain more once this mess is over. Naruto Omicha whispered worriedly. He put his hands together and gave out a silent prayer. Please come back safe and sound. Naruto Snow was trembling slightly as she grit her teeth. She wanted to go out there as well and help Zane save Naruto. But what could she do against something like a giant monster? All she could do is just hope and pray to whatever god exists in this shinobi-ruled earth that Naruto and Zane would be back safe and sound. Back to Naruto, land of wind. Desert. Oh man, see, Naruto whispered, staring at the tailed beast with fear as he took a single step back. I knew these guys were supposed to be huge, but I didn't think they'd be perfect chaos huge. So many bad feelings rose up inside of him as he stared at the one-tailed beast. This was bad. This was very bad. While he did indeed fight a lot of monsters that kept coming on his island, none of them were as gigantic as this thing, plus this was one of the 9-tailed beasts from what the old man told him all those years ago. Their power was based on the number of tails they have. They were basically on par with perfect chaos, minus them not using the power of the chaos emeralds. How the hell can he fight something like that? It took some of his power to take down Wave 4, plus his fight with Gaara earlier resulted in him using his full power to try and knock him out, but it proved meaningless. If he uses more of his energy, he'll be out of his chaos form and be tired. Damn it, what can I do to beat this thing? The one tail, growing tired of waiting, roars at Naruto and tries to squash him like a bug using his hands. But the demigod quickly changed into his wave form and gave a giant leap backward, avoiding the gigantic hands as they shook the ground. But due to the creature's massive size, they were almost close to hitting him. The guardian had to do an air dash to the side to avoid the hand that loomed over him. He landed on the giant hand and looked up at the beast's forehead, seeing Gaara's exposed upper body sticking out. There he did an aerial dash up its arm, giving out a yell as he summoned Sonic Cyclone and got ready to attack. Chaos win. Before Naruto could finish saying his attack, the one tail swiped its arm and knocked him off, earning a surprised scream from him. But it wasn't done yet as it sucked in a lot of air. Wind-style air bullet, it shot out a powerful condensed ball of wind like a cannonball as it went straight at Naruto, who looked shocked. The guardian raised his hand and used his new elemental form to create a barrier. The bullet made contact with the barrier as it exploded upon impact. The force of the impact blew Naruto back to the ground, causing him to revert back to normal as he bounced off its surface several times, leaving craters in his wake before sliding on the ground. The demigod growled in pain, putting a hand to his head. The blow from the impact made his head bleed with the blood trailing down his face. Fucking hell, I should have seen that coming. He sat up and shook his head, wiping the blood out of his eyes, glaring up at the one tail as it started to grin at him. He stood up and spat some blood out of his mouth, all the while ignoring the pain and just smirking at the giant beast. Is that all you got, you stupid tanuki? I barely felt that. The one tail didn't take too kindly to that comment as it roared at Naruto, who remained by it this time, his form full of confidence and determination, not a trace of fear on his face. It sucked in a bunch of air before doing a hand formation, making Naruto tense up as he summoned Perfect Zero. Trident mode. Wind-style air bullet. Before it could start performing the jutsu, it was interrupted by an explosion that hit him in the face, surprising it and Naruto. But that wasn't the end as more and more explosions started to appear around its body. Wait, Zane, Naruto whispered, looking up in the sky, and much to his joy he saw Zane in his Epsilon armor, heading their way at high speed, while at the same firing missiles at the tailed beast. Systems locked on target. Fire, Zane spoke in a monotone voice as he fired more missiles at Shukaku, who roared in annoyance as they hit its face. He landed next to Naruto, looking concerned. You okay? A little bit. Naruto admitted. What about the others? Safe. Zane answered. I took Kia from Temari and dropped her off at the hospital. Temari and Kankuro went to tell their father about the situation. But the whole village was in a panic when they heard Shukaku. Shukaku? Naruto asked, raising his brows. The one tail's name. Zane replied, surprising the guardian. Hold up, it's got a name. Shukaku let out another roar, grabbing the boy's attention as it glared angrily at them. The two took a stance as they glared up at the sand beast. How much longer can you stand? Zane asked. Honestly, my body is almost done. Naruto answered. I had to use some of my full power on him before he transformed. You? Same here. Zane replied. If I keep using my armors like this, I'll overheat and won't be able to use them. Here. Naruto held his hands out and was surprised when Zane tossed him the 4 emeralds. The emeralds. I'll hold him off while I can. When the time comes, use the emeralds and finish Shukaku. Zane told him before flying off to face Shukaku. He fired more missiles at the tailed beast, causing it to roar at him. Naruto watched on as Shukaku was trying to swipe at Zane, as though he was an armored teen was attacking the beast from everywhere, firing every missile at every part of its body. Since they were dealing with this humongous monster, the missiles weren't doing much damage and were only annoying it. Having enough of getting hit by those strange weapons, Shukaku unleashed a roar that made Zane cover his ears and leave him stunned. Shukaku took this chance and launched several sand shurikens at Zane, who noticed at the last second and got hit by them, pushing him back in the air, but also hitting his left wing. "Fuck, he got me," Zane thought as he looked at his damaged wing. He quickly back and his eyes widened when he saw a giant pair of hands come together and squash him. "Zane!" Naruto cried out, his face full of worry. Shukaku let out a laugh, finally able to catch its prey. But the laugh was short-lived when it saw its hands glowing red. It looked confused for a moment, but then roared out in pain when two lasers erupted from its hands, causing it to let go of Zane, who was in his Omega armor, using the jetpacks to stay afloat. "I can only stay transformed for a little bit," Zane said, feeling himself starting to overheat. "I'll use all of my remaining power to damage him and give Naruto a chance." His hands morphed into cannons as he aimed directly at the distracted Shukaku. The cannons started to charge up full of energy as they glowed in a mixture of crimson, red and purple. The sand spirit shook its now reformed hands and then glared angrily at Zane. It started to suck up a lot of air while performing a hand sign. "Wind style, Inferno," Zane said in an emotionless voice as he felt the cannons were now fully charged. Laser flash, air bullet. Zane fired two massive laser beams of red and purple energy that combined into an even large one. The laser completely obliterated Shukaku's attack and landed a direct hit on the tailed beast itself, much to its disbelief as the laser started to push it back. As this happened, pieces of Zane's armor began to fall off him as he continued to fire the beam. He released a yell as he put more energy into his beam as it finally knocked Shukaku on its back. A second later, Zane stopped firing as he took deep tired breaths, the rest of his armor falling off him. Down below, Naruto was gawking at Zane with an awestruck expression on his face. That had to have been the coolest thing he had ever seen. "Awesome," he then gasped when Shukaku used its tail to knock the transformed cyborg out of the air. Zane the Guardian leaps towards him and catches him in his arms, making them both crash to the ground. "Zane, are you okay?" "Yes," Zane answered tiredly. "Using that attack took a lot out of me, more than I expected." He stood up and got off Naruto, only to fall back down. "The rest is up to you now." Naruto looked at Zane before turning his attention to Shukaku, who stood back up on its feet while shaking its head. His expression turned deadly serious as he walked towards it, his fists clenched tightly. "All right. Leave it to me." Zane nodded his head in acknowledgement while giving him a small smile, which he returned with his own as he turned back to Shukaku. "Shukaku," Naruto called out, getting the One-Tail's attention. "This is it, the last round, only one is winning this, and it's gonna be me." "Oh yeah, you little brat," the sand spirit yelled at Naruto, making him and Zane look surprised that it could talk. "Just watch, as soon as I kill you, I'm going to go after your little friends too, you all better be prepared to die." The sand spirit aimed its left hand at the narrowed face of Naruto as sand began to rise up to his feet, which the Guardian didn't pay no mind to with his thoughts on something else. "My friends," Naruto thought as the sand began to cover him. He closed his eyes and summoned the four emeralds around him. He started to think about Kia, Zane, Amachao and Snow, along with the little boy that they saved. "Please, I need your help. I want to protect them. Just give me enough power so I can beat him." Insert song. Open Your Heart K Club Remix Sonic Adventure. The emeralds glowed brightly as a water veil quickly covered Naruto's being. He snapped his glowing pupil-less green eyes open and released a powerful roar that made a burst of yellow energy erupt from him, completely blowing the sand and water veil away. The four emeralds were absorbed within his being. His hair started to flash a pulsated lighter blue color, with his eyes leaking out energy, while a golden aura surrounded him. What the hell kind of chakra is that?" the One-Tail asked in shock. "This isn't chakra," Naruto told him. "This is a power of chaos hyper mode." After that announcement, sparkling white stars appeared around him. Naruto then charged at Shukaku at high speed, punching it across the face, making its head look to the other side, which the giant Tanuki looked on in disbelief. "What the buck? He hit me." Naruto smirked at his accomplishment as he quickly examined himself. "This is awesome. Hyper mode. A type of transformation that's caused by the Chaos Emeralds." He knows hyper mode isn't a super state, nor is it as powerful as one, but it has the amount of power needed to take down Shukaku, since he's supposedly the weakest of the tailed beasts. He doesn't know how long he can stay in it, so he gotta make this quick. "Oh yeah," Naruto grinned as he palmed his fist. "Let's go, chaotic, you crazy monster." "Why you?" Shukaku roared in anger as he launched a barrage of sand shurikens. The Guardian smirked at that as he dashed around the shurikens, easily avoiding them as he landed on Shukaku's stomach. He dashed upwards and gave Shukaku an uppercut that made it stumble back. "You little punk," Shukaku exclaimed as it slammed its hand down at Naruto, smirking when it caught him and slammed him to the ground, making a powerful blast of wind and dirt rise up. "Ha, not so cocky now, are you?" It moved its hand and saw nothing, which made it do a double take at this as it looked around for Naruto. But where'd he go? Shukaku let out a surprised yell when it felt its arm get hit by a large glowing water shuriken. It looked angrily at Naruto, only to see nothing there, which further angered the single-tailed beast. It then let out a loud screech as its body got hit by waves of incredibly hot fire. The waves also sliced off its right arm. It landed on the ground as it turned to sand. Naruto, holding wildfire, smirked at that before it disappeared in his pendant. With Shukaku now distracted, he charged at the forehead where Gaara was currently sleeping. Rise and shine, Sleeping Beauty. The Guardian gave Gaara a right hook to the cheek, then moved away from him. "Oh man, I just woke up." Shukaku gave a final roar as it felt its holder starting to wake up, thereby forcing it to go back to its slumber as its eyes were glazed over. Gaara's eyes slowly opened up as he glared at the floating Naruto, who was glaring back at him. "Don't underestimate me," he yelled, causing Shukaku to roar as it regrew its missing limb. "Oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt your nap?" Naruto asked in a mocking voice. He flinched slightly as he stumbled in the air. He noticed the stars around him had vanished and his aura was blinking out. "Crap, I'm running out of time, better finish this fast. I'll blow you away," Gaara yelled out as he performed a hand sign. Wind style. Air bullets. The Shukaku replica fired multiple air bullets at Naruto, who quickly charged at him while dodging them. It then raised its hand to try and grab him, though Naruto did a front flip to avoid it and was now running along its arm. The Guardian could see tendrils coming out as they tried to grab him. Turning his hands into claws, he sliced right through while avoiding some that tried to grab his feet. Seeing he was close to Gaara, he leaps towards him, his fist pulled back. "I'm not finished yet," Gaara exclaimed as tendrils came out of Shukaku's face and covered Naruto in a ball of sand. "It's over." But it wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. The bright light began to shine from within the ball of sand. Much to Gaara's shock, his ball of sand exploded as Naruto released a feral roar and a golden aura was unleashed from him. He glares down at Gaara, his fangs now sharpened and his eyes briefly turning a fiery orange. "You're finished, Gaara, I'm ending this right now," the Guardian exclaimed, pulling his fist back, charging it up full of energy. "No you won't," Gaara roared as Shukaku sucked in a lot of air. It then blew a blast of wind at Naruto to try and blow him away, which the Guardian fought through. Naruto gave out a final roar as the energy covered him and transformed into a giant replica of Perfect Chaos's head. The replica head glared heavily into Gaara's eyes and by extension Shukaku as it gave out a roar, which caught them off guard. It continued heading towards Gaara, shocking him to the core as it fought against his wind blast. While it happened, Gaara began to tremble uncontrollably. What the hell is that creature and why was he shaking? Him? Shaking? This never happened to him, not since he killed his uncle all those years ago. Was he afraid? No, it couldn't be. He wasn't afraid of anything. Just what the hell is Naruto Kyosu? The Jinchuriki let out a terrified scream as the energy broke through his attack, its mouth opened wide as it bit Shukaku's head clean off. However, what really happened was that Naruto gave Gaara a hard right hook to his face. To Naruto and Gaara, everything around them was moving in slow motion. Both of their eyes widened for a moment as they both started to get a vision at the same time, as though they were sharing it. Gaara's vision was that of his younger self standing all by his lonesome, his head hanging low. Naruto's vision was of his younger self standing in the same position, but then chaos appeared next to him, his younger self looking at him with a happy smile. One by one, all his friends appeared next to the young Naruto, who looked extremely happy, while the young Gaara was still by himself, now curled up into a ball. Why am I seeing this?" Gaara asked himself. Naruto's eyes softened as the visions came to an end. Gaara. Time returned to normal with Naruto's attack continuing on as both him and Gaara were sent crashing towards, landing on the spot. A massive earthquake erupted from the impact, which made a large cloud of sand appear and a powerful gust of wind to erupt. Far away from the battle, Zane had to cover his eyes from the powerful wind. He removed his arms from his eyes and watched with widened eyes as Shukaku's headless body turned into sand and fell to the ground. That had to have been the most amazing battle he had ever seen. The power of the Chaos Emeralds, they were truly as incredible as the info he received about them during his sleep. With just 4 of them, Naruto was able to achieve some sort of transformation and go toe-to-toe against a tailed beast. Naruto. Zane got up and traveled to where Naruto and Gaara landed. He narrowed his eyes as he saw a crater from where Naruto's attack crashed. He traveled towards the crater and looked down at it. Gaara was lying on the ground, cheeks swollen with his eyes blank, and Naruto was a few feet away from him, face first in the ground. Naruto's Zane called out as he slid down the crater. He reached Naruto and rolled him on his back, seeing that he looked incredibly exhausted. He gently shook him, causing the blue-haired boy to open one eye and smiled tiredly. Hey Zane. Is it over?" "Yes, it's over," Zane answered, giving him a small smile. "You won." Naruto gave a toothy smile at him. "Sweet, I think I'm gonna go to sleep for a bit," were his last words as he lost consciousness. Zane smiled softly at his friend and shook his head. You really are something else, aren't you, Naruto? He looked up and saw several sand shinobi around the crater, including the third Kazukiage and his oldest children. A tired blank expression appeared on Zane's face as he stared at the Kazukiage. So these shinobi waited till after the fight to finally reveal themselves. He shook his head tiredly before he decided to let himself fall asleep as well. Meanwhile, Hidden Leaf Village. Council room. Inside a private room of the academy building, the Hidden Leaf Village's most prominent clan heads were gathered up. Joining alongside them were the 3 elders and an Anbu Black Ops chief. The group were sitting around a large table, the clan heads on one side and the elders on the other side, while the Anbu stood next to the door. The door opened and Minato walked in the room, his expression that of a village leader, and took a seat in front of the head table. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, especially after the events that happened the other day. I have called everyone here because of something that I have discovered in regards to my son. What is it? Shikaku Nara asked. As many of you already know, I sent a retrieval team consisting of my wife, Lord Hiruzen, Master Jiraiya, Lady Tsunade and Shizune to the Land of Waves to get Naruto. Minato explained. I just received a letter from them telling me of the situation and he sighed. It looks like there's a lot more to what's going on than what we thought. Everyone looked curious by what he said. What exactly do you mean? Tsume asked. Do you all remember what Takashi said about Naruto having the ability to control water? They nodded, now getting curious of where this was going. I want to show you something. Minato reached into his cage cloak and took out a picture, holding it out in front of them. Everyone looked at the picture with confusion, surprise and slight shock. The photo depicted a humanoid water creature smiling happily at the camera with its thumbs up. Judging by its muscular physique, they knew it was male. What is this creature? Inoichi Yamanaka asked, raising a brow. That creature is Naruto. Minato said, shocking everyone present. What? That's your son, Choza Akimichi asked in surprise. How is this possible? Before I answer that, there's something I must tell you about what happened in Wave. In the letter, Master Jiraiya said that during Naruto and his friend's stay, Naruto fought the rogue Miss Ninja's Abusa Mamachi, while his friends fought his protege and the only living demon brother. Z's Abusa Mamachi. Your son fought against one of the 7 mist swordsmen and lived, Inoichi asked, his voice filled with disbelief which was shared by everyone in the room. Yes, and he won without getting hurt in the slightest. Minato said, his voice hiding a small amount of pride. He frowned a little bit at what he was about to say next. Though that's not all the letter said. But in the next couple of minutes, he explained to them all the contents of what the letter said, which was mainly of what they learned from Tazuna and his young grandson. Needless to say, everyone became speechless from what they heard. My word, Koharu said in a hush whispered. I can't believe it. A Kekkei Genkai that doesn't require chakra to be used. That has to be the most incredible thing I've ever heard. Agreed. Danzo agreed, speaking for the first time since the meeting started. To think that Naruto Namikaze has such an amazing gift and we never knew about it. He glanced at Minato. And you say these demons that are attacking the great nations came from him? I'm afraid so. Minato answered, staring at the photo of Naruto. These demons, or Chaos Warriors as they're called, are pieces of Naruto's power that were taken from him and somehow given physical forms. It explains why he's suddenly appeared again after so long. Along with his connection to them. Shibi Aburam added, crossing his arms. But it doesn't make sense though. Hamaru said, picking up the picture of Naruto and looking at it. Judging by this picture, it looks like Naruto's main ability is to control water and can actually take on an intriguing form when he's using it. So why do these Chaos Warriors have different forms? It's like Minato said. Shikaku said, eyes closed in thought. When Naruto's Kekkei Genkai awakened, someone must have discovered him using it after he fell into the ocean. They kidnapped Naruto to take this power for themselves and experimented on it to try and breed a new generation of shinobi that can use ninjutsu without wasting their chakra. Naruto of course escaped from them before they could do serious harm to him. That would make sense. Tsume said after hearing Shikaku's logic. It also explains why these Chaos Warrior things have different elements. They were trying to see if they could turn the kid's water power into another element. And from what's going, they seem to have succeeded. Choza said, a displeased frown on his face. But it also failed on them miserably. In the process of the experimentation, the boy's powers gained physical forms and wills of their own. These creatures more than likely killed whoever it was that took them away from him. Hiashi Hyuga, who remained quiet throughout the meeting, continued the discussion. Now because of that fool, we are in this situation today. That's right. Minato agreed with that theory, clenching his fists tightly under the table at the thought of his son being experimented on like a lab rat. Not only that, I learned that after Naruto defeated an eye, he absorbed him. This tells us that even though they were taken from him, Naruto is still able to regain the missing pieces of his power. Absorbed an eye? Inoichi asked in a stunned tone. But doesn't that mean he may have also inherited an eye's ability to control fire? It may also mean that the same also applies to the other Chaos Warriors. Shibi finished the statement which once again stunned everyone present. Do you know where your son is at Lord Fourth? Minato nodded. A day after Naruto absorbed an eye, he and his friends left for the land of snow to take care of Frost, the Chaos Warrior that controls ice. Ice? Tsume asked in surprise. Yes. Minato said. Fire, wind, lightning, earth and ice. Those are the 5 elements the Chaos Warriors control. And I being fire and Frost being ice. Of course. Now it all makes sense. Shikaku said, earning everyone's attention. What do you mean? Inoichi asked curiously. Think about it. Naruto and his friends went after an eye first because he controls fire while Naruto controls water. Fire is weak against water. If what we believe about Naruto inheriting an eye's fire ability is true, then it explains why they went after Frost next. Her ice is weak against fire. Minato explained, making everyone have looks of understanding. In other words, they're going after a Chaos Warrior that has a weakness to a certain element. Shikaku finished the explanation. Which means your son and his companions are traveling through the lands of wind, earth or lightning right now fighting these creatures. Danzo stated. The countries where our enemies are also located. Minato narrowed his eyes slightly at Danzo, but nodded his head anyway. I know what you're thinking Lord Danzo and it won't happen. Naruto nor his friends would never join their village and be their ninja. But how do you know that? Danzo asked. Because their mission is to defeat the Chaos Warriors and return home. Minato replied before clarifying. To his home I mean. Return home? Tsume repeated, a brow raised in confusion. So why is the retrieval team still in Wave if your kid's just going to up and disappear again? Naruto and his friends are going to return to Wave the day the bridge is complete, which won't be until a few more days, mainly due to the damage it took from the fight. Minato replied, looking down in thought. But by then, Naruto would have beaten all the warriors and have his pieces returned to him. Meaning that he'll be whole once again. Shikaku finished with Minato nodding in agreement. When that happens, we won't know how strong he'll be. What will you do, Lord Fourth? Inoichi asked. Even before fighting an eye, your son was able to fight against Zabuza by himself and managed to get away unharmed. That's right. Kahara nods in agreement. His ability to control water alone is impressive, but there's no telling what else his Kekkei Genkai can do once he's whole again, especially since he can also teleport to the location of the Chaos Warriors. That alone tells us that there's more to this Kekkei Genkai than meets the eye. Let's not forget about his friends. Homura added in. From the sound of it, they too have a special kind of power to them that no one has ever heard of. It's amazing that none of them aren't ninja. I know. Naruto and his friends they sure are mysterious. Minato said, giving a small smile before frowning sadly. I know that the moment Naruto sees the retrieval team, he'll more than likely attack them, but it might be Kushina he'll attack the most. It'll only show how much of a deep scar we left in his heart. The Anbu commander stepped forward from his position and bowed to the fourth Hokage. Lord Fourth, by your wish I will assemble a team to help restrain the boy. Minato shook his head, his expression stern. No. If anything, this whole mess is my fault. I knew Naruto was a special child since he was born without chakra and somehow survived, but I didn't think nor did I imagine he would be able to have a Kekkei Genkai that enables him to control water without the need for chakra. We never gave him a chance to see his potential, and because of that we turned away from him and he ran away. Most of the council frowned sadly at Minato, feeling sorry for him, but knew it was true. I already sent a letter back to the retrieval team. I told them if Naruto becomes too much for them to handle, or if anything unexpected happens, then Kushina can call on me through our wedding rings. Minato continued, a determined expression on his face. His response caught most of them off guard, especially since they know what that meant. You sure about this, Minato? Shikaku asked. Yes. Naruto is my son, so it's my responsibility as his father to be the one to take care of him. Later that night, Hidden Sand Village. Hospital. A soft groan is heard inside a room. The source of it came from Naruto who began to open his eyes. He sat up and tiredly rubbed his eyes. Feeling something cuddling him, made him look down to see Amachao and Snow sleeping on either side of him. Amachao. Snow. The demigod sat up as gently as he could so that he wouldn't wake them. He looked around and saw Kia and Zane sleeping on separate beds. Kia had some bandages wrapped around parts of her body, while Zane didn't have anything. He looked outside and saw it was dark outside. Oh man. How long were we out? Naruto mumbled. He noticed that it was dark inside the room they were in. Looking over, he saw a desk next to him, which thankfully had a lamp. He reached over and switched it on. What time is it? It's past midnight. Naruto jumped at the voice that replied to him. He looked at the door and saw Chio walking in. I'm surprised you've woken up after those huge battles you all had yesterday. Naruto scratched his head sheepishly while giving her a goofy smile. I've always been a morning person. Plus I heal pretty fast. Gio laughed quietly. I know, I saw it happen with my own eyes. It's amazing to hear that not only you were able to defeat the wind demon, but to also handle Shukaku by yourself and won against it. That's something only a cage-level shinobi is capable of doing. Well, I didn't beat him alone. Naruto admitted. I had Zane with me to back me up, he's been a great help. Oh? What about those 4 emeralds Kia gave your friend? The ones that were supposed to help you win against Shukaku? Chiyo asked, making Naruto do a comical spit take and sweat slightly much to her amusement. Oh. Right. Can you do us a favor and not mention them to the Kazekage please? Things will be complicated if he finds out about them, and I don't want to have to fight him because he wants to keep them for himself. Oh, you don't have to worry about that. Chiyo smiled smugly, winking at him. This old gal is retired, so I don't have to tell that crazy fool anything. Naruto took a sigh of relief from hearing that. "You thanks a lot lady." He got hit in the face by a pillow which knocked his head back to the wall behind, earning a hiss from him. "Quit being so loud," a tired voice told him sternly. "And stop being rude to Ms. Chiyo." Naruto removed a pillow from his face, staring at Kia with widened eyes. Huh? I thought you were asleep. I was until I heard a certain goofball's voice. Kia deadpans, earning a sheepish laugh from Naruto. She rolled her eyes as she sat up only to hold back a hiss which caught both occupants' attention. "Move gently child. We managed to heal every broken bone in your body, but you still have a bruise here or there." Chiyo told Kia, who nodded her head. "You okay?" Naruto asked her, his voice full of concern and a worried look on his face. "I'm fine. Just sore." Kia replied, feeling happy about his concern for her. "What about you?" "That is new," Naruto said, giving her his goofy smile before he flinched and held his head which made her giggle. "And Zane?" "I am fine as well." Now both Naruto and Kia jumped at Zane's sudden voice as they turned to him. "What? When did you wake up?" "I've always been awake. I went to the bathroom before Chiyo showed up." Zane answered with a blank comical expression causing them to sweat drop. "Well damn, you could have at least told me you were awake," Naruto said. Nearby, Chiyo watched their interaction with amusement as she let out a giggle. These kids just fought against a powerful Jinchuriki and here they are acting like well kids. It always warmed her heart to see youths like them acting like this. The genin of this era were too arrogant, prideful and too serious to even have fun once they put that forehead protector on. They would only talk about how powerful or strong they were getting and even be smug about it or look down on those who were useless on the mission to the point where fights would happen. But these 3 were different from them. Not a single one of them were talking about what happened during their fight with Gaara and Shukaku, with Naruto even admitting that he would be a goner without his friend, even being concerned about their condition. This alone proved how much of a powerful bond the 3 of them shared. If only the children of this era were like these 3. Chiyo thought to herself. "Say old la I mean Ms. Chiyo." Naruto quickly corrected himself after seeing the heated glare from Kia. "What happened after we lost consciousness?" Chiyo's expression turned serious. "After your battle with Gaara, the Kazekage and his personal Anbu showed up, though I suspect they were simply watching you fight from afar. You and Zane were quickly brought back to the hospital and received medical treatment. What about Gaara?" Naruto asked, frowning seriously which was shared by Zane, while Kia trembled slightly from remembering his monster form. "The Kazekage took his son and went home. After all that's happened, there's no doubt he's probably resting right now." Chiyo told him, in which all 3 nodded in response. "Is Chiyo?" Kia said her name softly. "What happened to Gaara that made him become who he is today?" Her question made Naruto and Zane pay close attention to retired ninja, Naruto, especially since the vision of the child form of Gaara was still fresh on his mind. "Tell me, do any of you children know what a Jinchuriki is?" The 3 nodded at Chiyo's question. "Yes." The island princess said, a serious look on her face. "A very long time ago, back on my island, some of our warriors would travel out to explore the neighboring islands and come back to tell us about their travels. They found themselves in the shinobi nations, where they learned about 9 powerful demons that roamed there and the people who had those demons sealed in them. The men told our people about them through messenger birds." Everyone looked surprised from hearing Kia's story. "Whoa, sounds cool," Naruto said, smiling slightly. "Did they ever come back?" "Only one did," Kia answered, her face darkened slightly, which made Naruto lose his smile and Zane to close his eyes. Chiyo raised her brows and had a look of understanding. "I see. So that's why your island is hidden and why shinobi are forbidden to enter." "Not just that," Kia replied. "When it comes to technology, our people are very advanced and we feared the shinobi would come and send their Jinchuriki after us to either steal them or kill us, maybe both. We also learned about the sort of life Jinchuriki are forced to live because of the burden they carry. Is everything about them true?" "I'm afraid so," Chiyo answered sadly. "Everything you've heard about them, be they good or mostly just bad, is true." She went on to explain to the children the truth about the tailed beasts, along with the Jinchuriki and their purpose in life. Once that was done, she soon explained about the funding problems of the village and the truth about Gaara. Because of the village's funding, the 4th Kazekage wanted Shukaku sealed into his children. Tamari and Kankuro weren't compatible with it and of course Gaara. So Shukaku was sealed inside Gaara, who was still inside his mother at the time, and he came out prematurely. His mother died from the ordeals of childbirth, not before telling Gaara she loved him and that she would always protect him. Gio also revealed that she was the one who sealed Shukaku in Gaara. She then told the group about Gaara's childhood. From his early isolation to going around the village and learning about the villagers, including his own siblings, hatred and fear of him due to his Jinchuriki nature. Gaara tried to make friends with everyone, but they would all run away because he would unintentionally injure or kill them with his sand. The only person who was ever nice to him and showed him love was his uncle Yashimaru. However, one night, something awful happened and this one drove Kia into tears. By orders of the 4th Kazekage and the Sand Council, Yashimaru was ordered to kill Gaara because he was a failed experiment and if allowed to continue living would harm the village and its citizens. Yashimaru was badly wounded by Gaara's sand attack and was forced to lie to the young child and tell him that he hated him because he caused his mother's death. Hurt and devastated by what his uncle said caused the young Gaara to transform into Shukaku and become what he is now. After that incident, Rasa arranged multiple assassination attempts on Gaara's life, all of which he managed to survive. After that, Gaara decided to fight, love and only trust in himself. He learned how to control his power, becoming the very weapon Rasa wanted to have. That is Gaara's way of the ninja. Chio finished the story, a sad regretful look on her face. She had to turn away when she saw the tears that fell from Kia's eyes. That's so awful, Kia said, wiping the tears that fell from her eyes. How could a village leader do something so horrible to their own children? It's disgusting. Zane said, his voice full of anger. Hearing a feral growl and the sounds of Amachao and Snow letting out a startled noise made everyone look up and saw an angry Naruto stomping his way to the door. His stomp was so powerful it actually left small prints on the floor. Just when he was about to leave, Zane was already on him and was holding him back. Let me go, Zane, I'm gonna teach that bastard Cage a lesson, Naruto yells angrily. Chio let out a gasp as she took a good look at Naruto's face. Splashes of water were around his face, making it look like he was actually made of water, but that wasn't what surprised the elderly medic. No, his face took on a feral appearance. His eyes turned completely emerald green with his pupils turned into slits. She had to close her eyes and shake her head for a moment as she saw scales actually appear on his face. Naruto, calm down, Zane told him as he held him in place. I can't calm down, not after hearing what that bastard did to him, his own son, Naruto exclaimed as he continued to move forward, his hands taking on a watery state as they transformed into claws with his fangs growing longer and sharper. There's no way in hell I'm gonna let him get away with that. What's going on? Amachao asked, looking scared. Naya Snow meows loudly, she too wonders what's happening. Naruto, please. Naruto stopped trying to get out of Zane's grip and turned his now reptilian-like eyes to Kia, who held his arm. Her eyes, which were full of pleas, stared into his anger-filled own. Listen, I know you're angry and upset about what happened to Gaara, but you can't just march over there and fight the Kazekage because of what he did. But he's wrong for that, Naruto argued. That son of a bitch cares more about the village than his own son, and look what happened. He was that desperate to turn his children into a bucking weapon and didn't care about the consequences of his actions. The villagers just made it worse by treating him like he was an actual monster. That bastard knew how they would treat him and he still didn't care. How is that fair towards Gaara? I know. Kia said sadly as she put her hand on top of Naruto's trembling own in order to calm it. And believe me, I want to confront him about this as well. But what happened to Gaara in his childhood won't change. She's right. Zane said as he released Naruto after he stopped struggling. What happened in the past, happened in the past. We have only the future to determine what will happen to us as we move forward. Naruto looked ready to say something but stopped. He looked down at the floor for a moment before he closed his eyes and calmed down, his face and hands returning to normal. He took a deep breath and let it out in a long sigh as he put his hand to his forehead and rubbed it softly. I know that. I swear to chaos, I know that. The Guardian said sadly. But it's people like him, people like the Kazekage that are still living in the past, following the same traditions and not trying to move forward and change. I mean, come on, there's a reason why history exists. It's there to teach us to not repeat what those of the past has done. Everyone remained quiet as Naruto talked because they knew full well that he was right. The Guardian had a bitter look as he thought about order. But I guess no matter what era or world it is, history has an awful habit of repeating itself in some form. Yes. I'm afraid you're right, Naruto Kyosu. Chio agreed with Naruto's statement, knowing full well that it's true. Inwardly, she was surprised by his reaction to what the Kazekage had done and how he was willing to fight in Hiden, completely uncaring of the fact that Rasa is a cage. She had to admit, the boy sure has a strong sense of justice which is admirable, but also unnecessary in the shinobi world. Heard Jinchuriki would live a bad childhood. Kia said, as she removed her hand from Naruto's. But I didn't think it was this bad. She turned to Chio with a disapproving expression. I don't understand Ms. Chio, if you knew this would happen, then why would you agree to it? Because I was still a ninja under direct orders of the Kazekage. Chio explained, a sad frown on her face as she looked at the floor. Here in the Sand Village, disobeying the Kazekage means a death sentence. I simply followed the orders of the Kazekage without question. But sealing Shukaku inside of Gaara happened to be one of the greatest regrets I've made in my life. I robbed the boy of a proper childhood and made him what he is now. Ms. Chio. Kia said, feeling remorseful for accusing her like that. I'll let you children continue to get some rest. I'll be back to check up on you tomorrow morning. Chio said as she stood up and walked out of the room, leaving Team Chaos by themselves. What was that about? Amachao asked everyone curiously. Did we miss something? A lot. You missed a lot, Omo. Naruto sighed as he laid back down on his bed, arms resting behind his head, just as Snow curled up next to him, likely to try and help him calm down. Tomorrow, when we leave, we're taking the kid with us. Yeah. Kia said softly, returning to bed herself, hugging her knees. I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving him here after hearing what the Kazekage did to Gaara. Agreed. Zane said, returning to his own bed. Kia found herself looking out at the window to look at the moon. You know, I always wanted to meet a Jinchuriki. I just hoped and wished that they weren't like Gaara. It's awful to know that such a thing exists in this world. It kinda makes me wonder how the other Jinchuriki are being treated in their own village. A half-lidded blank look came on Naruto's face as he thought about the Namikaze sisters. They both carried half of the 9 tails, yet despite that they were still treated like heroes. The whole village basically worshipped them, and not a single person there feared or hated them. Thinking back on it, the old man did tell him at some point that Jinchuriki face extremely difficult hardships in their life due to the burdens they bear of being jailers. Being hated and feared by their own village because of the demons they carry. In most cases, it would be so bad to the point where the Jinchuriki would become emotionless weapons or too mentally broken because of what they went through, mainly being abused by their village or assassination attempts on their lives, making them become defunct weapons and be thrown away. Just like Gaara. Matter of fact, wasn't his childhood back in the village similar to how a Jinchuriki lived their everyday lives? If so, then that's a sick twisted humor that was placed on him. It's stupid. Naruto said, closing his eyes as though he was going back to sleep. This world is messed up. It's like humans aren't willing to accept those who are different from them because they know nothing about them. Jinchuriki, an alien or whatever else is probably out there, it doesn't matter what they are or where they came from, a person is still a person. They have feelings just like them yet they don't care. People who judge other people without getting to know them, they just make me so angry. Since Naruto's eyes were closed, he didn't see the awestruck looks on everyone's faces, except for Amachao, who nodded along with Naruto. Kia smiled happily at that as she nods her head, with Zane closing his eyes and having a smile of his own, agreeing with him. Snow herself looked at Naruto with a sparkle in her eyes and a huge blush dusting her cheeks as his passionate words struck her heart like a lightning bolt. A huge smile appeared on her face as she jumped to his head and licked his nose, happily making him giggle slightly, which was shared by everyone. Naruto is so cool, Nia Snow thought, rubbing her cheek against his. I'll admit, it does make me wonder if the Sage of Six Paths lived through that life as well. Zane said, looking down slightly, getting everyone's attention. Huh? Naruto opens his eyes as he sits up and looks at the ancient cyborg. What does that mean? You mean you don't know? Know what? Kia asked, raising a curious brow. I see. I guess even ancient history can get lost. Zane said, more to himself before he addressed the group, his face turned serious. Everything you know about tailed beasts, such as their origins, haven't been properly explained. Before the 9 tailed beasts were born, there was only one monster. That monster was known as the 10 Tails. Everyone's eyes widened. Say what? 10 Tails? Naruto asked in disbelief as he sat back up, comically spooking Snow off the bed, who quickly climbed back up and pouted at him. He quickly apologized to her. There was a 10 Tails, Kia asked as well. But it's been said there were only 9 of them. From what I know based on the information the ancients gave me, Zane started his explanation on the subject. The 10 Tails was this titanic fearsome beast that has no sense of right or wrong. Its only goal was to reclaim the chakra the sage and his twin brother had. In order to stop its rampage, the sage sealed the 10 Tails inside him, becoming history's first Jinchuriki. Naruto, Kia, Amachao and Snow were stunned to hear such information. None of them couldn't believe that such a terrifying monster actually existed before the 9 beasts, and to find out that legendary sage became its Jinchuriki. Already knowing the 10 Tails would return after his death to continue its objective, he used a special technique to separate the chakra in the 10 Tails body to create the 9 beasts. Before the sage's death, he and his followers built temples in 9 different regions of the world where they could live and be protected. Wait, now I'm getting a major headache. Naruto complained, rubbing his temples to ease his hurting brain. All of the beasts came from a single monster who just suddenly attacked the sage and his brother just because they have chakra and the sage sealed it inside himself. He then used his power to split its chakra into 9 pieces, which became known as the tailed beasts. That's basically it. Zane confirmed. But why? Kia asked in confusion. She still couldn't comprehend why the sage did that. I mean, we know the sage created them to prevent the 10 tails from escaping when he dies, but there has to be something else other than that. There is. Zane nodded as he continued. The tailed beasts were created to not only prevent the 10 tails resurrection, but to also maintain balance and peace throughout the world. What? Maintain balance and peace? Naruto asked in disbelief before he looked angry. How the hell is sealing them inside people and turning them into weapons maintaining balance and peace? It's a balance of power. Kia said after much thinking, with her eyes narrowed in a glare. Because of their immense power, the tailed beasts were sought out by humans to be used as weapons in times of war, even though they were scared of them. I wouldn't even be surprised if the beasts fought back against them if they were looking for a fight. The sage obviously didn't want this to happen to them, but it still did, and now they hate humans for what they did to them. That definitely explains Shukaku's earlier bloodlust and anger at them when she met Gaara. Naruto's eyes widened briefly before they darkened. That reminds me of something I learned from the old man. After shinobi villages were created, the first Hokage of the Leaf Village captured all 9 of the beasts and divided them among the 5 shinobi countries as a form of peace between them. That made the group look surprised at that, with Naruto continuing. But it didn't last for long as the first great ninja war had started and the shinobi needed more power to beat their enemies. The tailed beasts were the kind of power they needed. And Amichao spoke up for the first time since the topic was brought up. In order to harness that power, they did what the sage did with the 10 tails. Exactly. Zane said as Naruto made a TSK sound. Damn fool probably knew they could talk, yet he didn't want to listen to what they had to say. The demigod said. The first Hokage, Kia thought, frowning to herself as she hugged her pillow. Just what in the world was he thinking when he just decided to capture the 9 beasts and sell them off as though they were slaves? It was horrible. Was he really that desperate to have peace between the great nations that he would resort to such an action without the beasts' cooperation? If he had just talked to them and asked them for help, then maybe the tailed beasts wouldn't hate humans as much as they do now. The atmosphere around them grew tense as they dived deeper into the topic. In fact, Snow was the only one who noticed it and she didn't like it at all. This is getting scary, Naya. Snow thought to herself, trembling comically. She calmed down when Naruto held her and rubbed her head, earning a purr of delight from her. Hey Zane, do you know where the 10 tails came from? Amichao asked the android, who shook his head. Not sure. I only know from what the ancients know. Meh, not like it matters. Naruto said with a smile, the tense atmosphere from the discussion disappearing. The 10 tails been gone for centuries, so I'm sure we don't have to worry about it. I wouldn't say that. Kia told him, a serious frown on her face. He sent her a confused expression, so she elaborated. Think about what Zane said earlier. The sage took the 10 tails chakra out of its body. Shouldn't that mean the 10 tails body is just an empty husk? Oh, shit. Naruto said, eyes widened. Yes, and that empty husk is still waiting for its missing chakra to return to it. Zane continued, frowning in thought. Which only leaves the question. Where did the sage hide this giant empty husk so that no one can find it and bring it back to life for evil purposes? Naruto finished. The group went silent after that as none had the answer to it. But they did know one thing. If somebody had learned of this monster and went to try revive it, then this world would be in very deep trouble. Each of them hoped that wherever the 10 tails body was located, nobody hasn't found it yet. Unknown cave. A man wearing a black cloak decorated with red clouds is standing in front of a tall demonic-like statue, looking intently at it. He wore an orange spiral-shaped mask with a single eye hole. The man suddenly perked up and turned around. Is someone talking about me? The mysterious man asked in a deep voice. He shook his head and turned around to face the statue once again. Must be my imagination. Next day, Hidden Sand Village. Hospital. The boy, who was only known as Test Subject 135, was sound asleep. But it didn't last long as he felt the sun hitting his face. He sat up and rubbed his eyes softly, trying to get adjusted to the light that hit his face. He yawned softly, covering his mouth while doing so, and fully opens his eyes. He blinked several times and saw he was in a room by himself. Where am I? He remembers traveling through the desert before he fell down because of the heat. He was then rescued by some older kids before he fell asleep again. He looked outside the window and saw he was in a village. Is this a ninja village? An awestruck look appeared on the boy's face as he saw many people and shinobi walking around, but for some reason they looked scared like something was going to attack them. He jumped slightly when he heard what sounded like people talking, and they were heading towards the door. Okay, if he's awake, be as gentle as possible. We don't want to scare him. He heard a girl's voice which sounded familiar to him. Don't worry. We're the very definition of gentle, another familiar voice said, this one sounding like a boy. Right, Omo? Of course, right, Snow. Naya, SHH. The door opened up to reveal the blue hair boy who saved him. What was his name again? Hey, he's awake, Naruto said happily as he entered the room, his friends following after him. Oh good, Kia smiled happily with Snow riding her shoulder. She carried a tray of food, which consisted of 3 cooked toast, eggs, sausages, rice balls and orange juice. She set the tray down on the desk. Good morning, we got breakfast for you. Ah. Tea, thank you. The boy said softly, taken aback by their sudden appearance and the odd smell of the food that was given to him. He picked up a toast, smelling it before taking a bite. His eyes widened at the delicious taste before he quickly ate it and went for another one. Team Chaos watched this with amusement as the boy continued to gobble up the food that was given to him. They did come up to him when he started to choke and cough before handing him the juice which he drank. The boy took a bite out of the rice ball, but stopped as he realized something. When was the last time he had tasted such delicious food? Back at the laboratory, the food they had wasn't as good as what he had just now. In fact, they would often feed them the same stuff each and every day, while also giving them food pills during testing. And if they fail their test or don't comply with them, then they don't get food at all. The only time he and the other children had something so good was when that nice doctor woman came by to check on them. Just thinking about her and all the nice things she's done made tears fall out his eyes. The nice lady, she risked her life to save him and keep him away from the snake man. But after what happened the other night, he knows that he will never see her again. Team Chaos shared a brief look of understanding and turned to the boy with soft smiles on their faces. Snow meows as she jumps off Kia's shoulder and is caught by Naruto. The island princess herself took the rice bowl out of the boy's hand, putting it on the tray, and hugged him close to her chest as he hugged her back. It was only a couple of minutes later, the boy calmed down after letting out his emotions. He sniffed and was handed a tissue by Kia. Thank you. The boy said, wiping his face from any tears. Sure. Kia said. Where are we? We're at the Hidden Sand Village. Naruto replied, taking a seat. We were on our way here when our little pals here found you. You remember us, right? Uh-huh. The boy nodded as he looked at each of them. Kia. Zane. Amachao. T the kitty. And why you're Naruto. Yup, Naruto smiled happily. The little kitty though? Her name's Snow. Snow sent a deadpan expression at Naruto before she sighed and shook her head. Aw, I won't worry about it. They'll know eventually. Hi there, little boy. Amachao suddenly appeared in front of the boy, making him jump in shock and slight fear. We're so glad you're okay. The boy hid himself behind Kia, who sent Amachao a half-lit annoyed expression which was shared by Naruto. What part of that is gentle, Amachao? The demigod asked, making the Robochao scratch his head sheepishly. Zane shook his head at them before turning his attention to the boy. Little one. He got the boy's attention. Do you remember how you came to the desert? The boy came out of hiding and nodded his head. Can you tell us what happened? Zane asked again. The boy went silent as awful memories began to resurface once again. Memories of him being strapped to a table where painful needles were injected into him along with electric shocks. Older people who would attack him to the point where his bones would break and he would be unconscious but fully healed the next day. Then the snake man would come visit and cut him painfully before testing him against the other children and grown-ups to see if his power would awaken, which it did. And he used that power to kill every last one of them. The boy was breathing rapidly as he grabbed the arm that was still bandaged, and his vision started to get more and more blurry as the horrible memories kept coming back. Seeing this worried everyone as they knew that he was about to have an episode. Zane immediately berated himself for asking that question out of the blue. Kia's heart broke at seeing him in such a state as she hugged him closer to her. Amachao and Snow had sad looks on their faces as they stared at the trembling child. Naruto reached out and rubbed the boy's head softly, making him look up at him to show his terrified eyes. He gave him a gentle smile. It's okay, pal. We already know about your arm. We just want to know how you got to the desert. The boy looked at the smile on Naruto's face before looking at the others as they too smiled as well, nodding their heads at him. The boy looked down, rubbing his bandaged arm. Be back at the laboratory where we were held. The snake man, he was gonna come and take me away because I awoke a special power. All the others were failures and they had to be disposed of. Everyone went stiff by what the boy said, horrified expressions taking over. The nurse, the one who's always kind to us, tried to stop them. But she was too late. They started to kill the others. She took me away while it happened and we escaped from them. We were going to go somewhere safe but then they found us. Who found you? Kia asked gently, softly rubbing the boy's head. Yes, Snake Man's elite ninja the sound 5. The boy continued as he trembled slightly as he remembered their cold dark gazes. We got away from them but the nurse got hurt. She told me to keep running and to not look back. I did, then I heard a loud explosion, but I just kept running and running, but I got tired and hungry and thirsty. And You can stop now. We know what happens next. Zane told the boy as gently as he could. Oh, okay. The boy said softly. Everyone remained silent after that as the boy went back to eating. They looked at each other with serious gazes as they nodded their heads in silent agreement. The Kazukiage was not gonna have this boy and turn him into a weapon like he did with Gaara, especially since Orochimaru wanted him for whatever special power he has. Naruto looked outside the window to see the people now walking amongst themselves, while some still looked worried or scared. He turned his attention to Lord Kazukiage's building with a soft expression on his face. Gaara. Despite the battle they just had and hearing his story, Naruto felt sorry for the poor guy. He didn't ask to live this kind of life, but he still did. Now that he thought about, while they were fighting, he managed to get a closer look into his eyes. Hidden deep inside the insanity and cold exterior he displayed when they first met, Gaara had the same look he had in his eyes a long time ago. Loneliness. Gaara is just a lonely boy who just wanted to be loved by family and friends. The only love he had was for his uncle before the Kazukiage ordered him to lie to Gaara about his true feelings for his nephew, all just to test him to see if he could control Shikaku's power. In a way, the two of them were very similar yet equally very different from each other. One was born chakraless and the other born a Jinchuriki. One was abandoned and treated unfairly by his own family for being different, and the other was trained to be a weapon and was treated as a monster. One was able to find the light of hope and the other was left alone in the dark with no one to love and help him. The more he thought about the fourth Kazukiage and the things he's done made Naruto clench his fist as he silently growled at the building. He should just go over there and teach that bastard a lesson. But he won't. Because like Zane said, what's done is done. It's only the future we have to shape as we move on with our lives. Maybe that battle will help Gaara see that his way of doing things was wrong. If not, then he'll just have to help him once again. Hey kid. Naruto spoke up, getting everyone's attention. He turns to him with a smile. I know you just woke up and everything, but do you want to come with us? Huh? The boy looked confused. See, we're on a journey right now to take care of some monsters and get back something they took from me. Naruto answered. Them monsters? The boy asked in a frightened tone, making the guardian sweat drop and laugh sheepishly, even when Kia punched his shoulder in annoyance. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that. I know it sounds scary and dangerous, okay, it's entirely scary and dangerous, but we're the only ones who can stop them. Naruto explained but then smiled happily. But once we're done, we're gonna head back to my island and have the wildest party ever. The boy blinked and tilted his head to the side, looking curious. Your island? Yup, Naruto said happily. Just wait and see the friendly creatures, the locations, the food, there's a lot of cool and amazing things there that I can't even put into words. His smile turned gentle as the boy's face was even more curious than before. But more than that, you'll be safe with us and become a part of our family. The boy looked surprised. Become a part of your family? The teen nodded his head, which made the boy turn to the others and saw they too nodded at him with smiles present. The boy looked down in thought as he remembered the nice lady's teachings about what a family was. Being a family means you are a part of something wonderful. It means you will love and be loved for the rest of your life. The boy clenched his blankets tightly as he remembered asking her about blood-related families. Families don't have to be blood-related. It's the people in your life who want you to be in theirs. People who accept you for who you are. Who would do anything to see you smile and who loves you no matter what. Is it really okay? The boy asked, shaking slightly as he held his bandaged arm. For someone like me to have a family? Of course. Kia replied gently, rubbing his shoulder. Everyone deserves to have a family. Because without them, it would be very lonely. Yeah. Naruto said softly, looking out at the sky as he thought about chaos, the chow, wisps and critters. If I hadn't met them, I wouldn't be who I am today. He smiled happily as he looked at the boy. Besides, I always wanted to have a little brother. So what do you say? The boy sniffed and nodded his head rapidly. He looked up at them and smiled very brightly, showing them that some of his teeth were missing. The group shared his happiness, especially Naruto and Amachao who were jumping around in excitement. Hooray, we have a new friend, Amachao cheered happily as he flew around the boy's head, making him look up at him. Sweet, I got a new little brother, Naruto cheered before stopping and covering his mouth, along with stopping Amachao, who was comically struggling to get out of his grip. He peeks out from the door to see everyone staring at him with wide comical eyes. He quickly closed the door and turned to his friends and saw their comical reactions. The boy had a curious yet confused expression. Zane raised an eyebrow, Snow blinked before meowing happily at the two, and Kia was smiling at them, though a vein was pulsing out of her forehead. Oh boys. A second later, the two were in a kneeling position with smoking bumps on their heads, courtesy of the island princess who sighed and rubbed her temple. Zane shook his head in amusement, Snow giggled, and the boy was laughing a little bit. Well, first things first. Kia said as she turned to the boy, smiling at him. We're gonna have to come up with a new name for you. The boy blinked. A name? Yup, we gotta call you something, don't we? Kia asked with a giggle. But why? The boy had to ask that question. After all, the snake man told him and the other children that they were simply test subjects, so they don't need to have names. Because names have a special meaning to people. Kia told him. Take my name for example, Kia means season's beginnings or new beginnings. She sent Naruto a teasing look. Naruto's named after a fish cake ramen topping. Boy, Naruto gave her a comical glare. It's not fish cake, my name means Maelstrom. Maelstrom. Sure it is, Naruto Maki. Kia shot back, her teasing smile increasing further at Naruto's annoyed expression, before he huffed and turned away. Well, Zane's name means God's gracious gift. Amachao said, making Kia and Zane look surprised as they turned to Naruto, who looked at them out of the corner of his eye and laughed at their expressions. What? It's an appropriate name. Zane smiled in gratitude at that, making the guardian nod before turning to the kid. But yeah. All names have a special meaning, so of course it's only right that everything, from people to animals and even buildings, needs to have one. And that means you need to have one yourself. Oh. Oh okay, the boy nodded happily at that, now understanding why everyone wanted him to have a name. Now then, let's see what we're working with here. Naruto stood up from his position and looked closely at the boy. Everyone just watched as the demigod continued to examine the boy, all the while making humming noises. A light bulb appeared above his head as a happy smile appeared on his face. I got it, how about Ethan? The boy blinked multiple times. Ethan. Ethan, Naruto said the name again. That's a nice name for him, Naruto Amachao said happily. Nice, Snow meows happily. That's a unique name. Zane commented. I'll say, what does that name mean? Kia asked curiously. It means strong, safe and enduring or firm, whichever is okay. Amachao replied, surprising the two with Snow meowing in agreement. Wow. You come up with some nice meaningful names, Naruto. Kia smiled at the guardian, making him scratch his head sheepishly. To be honest, the name just popped into my head. It was true. When he was trying to come up with a name for the kid, for whatever weird reason, Ethan just popped into his head. He didn't know why it did, but he just rolled with it. It's still nice. Zane said, offering a smile as well. Thanks. Naruto nodded at him and looked at the boy. You like it? Ethan, why yeah, I love it, the boy said happily, still speaking softly. My end name is Ethan. Naya Snow meows as she paws Ethan's cheek and licks his chin, which earns a giggle from him. Alright, Kia cheered softly as she clapped her hands. Ethan, can you walk? Why yes. Ethan replied as he got off the bed and took some steps forward to see if he could walk, which he did. He ended up losing his balance and almost fell on the floor if not for Naruto catching him in time. Whoa, take it easy little guy, there's no rush. The guardian said. I mean you just woke up and we're not gonna leave right away. Oh okay. First we gotta clean you up. Kia said happily. She paused for a second, then sniffed her armpits before flinching away in disgust. In fact, all of us gotta clean up. After those fights we had, I think we deserve a nice hot bath. Naya Snow happily agreed. Naruto and Zane blinked at them as they shared a quick glance and sniffed their armpits. The two flinched comically, which Amachao and Ethan giggled at. Later, after the doctors came in to check on Ethan for any more serious injuries, which they didn't find any whatsoever, they were allowed to leave, but not without letting Ethan continue to put more meat on his bones. Once he had his fill, the group left the hospital and wandered around the streets looking for a bathhouse. A lot of the villagers were staring at them. Word had already spread across the village about their accomplishment yesterday, not only defeating Vayu, but also fighting against Gaara and the sand demon Shukaku, and making it out alive. Some of the villagers were whispering to each other, while others pointed. The looks they gave them were of awe, respect and admiration. Some even went up to congratulate and thank them for beating the two terrifying demons, especially Naruto since they heard he fought against Shukaku by himself and managed to finish it off. Seeing the looks directed at them made Naruto sick to his stomach. It was their own fault that Gaara became what he is today. They let their fear of Shukaku get the better of them and couldn't tell the difference between the jailer and prisoner. Ethan wasn't paying too much attention to the villagers staring since he was so awestruck at the buildings and tasty-looking food. But when he noticed everyone running up to them, he made sure to stay close to the others, even hiding behind Naruto's leg when people looked at him and asked him questions which melted their hearts as they found his shyness adorable. Not wanting to deal with them and seeing Naruto getting ready to snap at someone for making a horrible comment about Gaara, Kia asked the location of the bathhouse, which they thankfully found. After entering the bathhouse, with Amachao having to stay outside for obvious reasons and of course going into their respective gender sides, they found themselves enjoying the indoor baths. While he was washing his hair, Naruto realized that Ethan didn't have any clothes except for the ones they found him in. He honestly didn't want him to wear anything from this village, mainly because the clothes here are pricey and they barely had any. They received a large sum of money from Koyuki as a reward for saving her country, which they didn't want since they weren't doing it to get rewarded, though she insisted on it and told them how important it was to have money since they might have to go out to restaurants to eat food or go shopping. They relented and accepted the money, though not without Naruto giving her some gold rings in exchange for them. The money was split evenly amongst them and they could spend it however they want. But Naruto had other ideas for Ethan's clothes. So once they finished taking their baths and were drying off, the older boys took notice of all of Ethan's features, such as his hair which was a short powder blue color with small bangs framing his face and small tufts of his hair sticking out, along with his huge gentle and soft eyes, which were bright orange like the setting sun. Taking another good look at Ethan, Naruto had an idea of the outfit that would match with him. So with a quick "I'll be right back" towards Zane and Ethan, he teleported back to Angel Island. Meanwhile on Kia's side, after enjoying the nice warm bath for a couple more minutes as she washed Snow, she got out and went to change into her outfit, with the now freshly clean Snow following after her. Looking over her already maturing body, Kia was quite thankful to the Master Emerald for giving her the ability to heal herself. Not a single bruise on her and nothing. The island princess got dressed and was currently outside with Amachao and Snow, waiting for the others to come out. She too knows about Ethan's clothes situation and wanted to go clothes shopping for him before they went to the bathhouse. But when they entered the clothing store, they quickly left because she didn't like the clothes they had. After a quick group meeting, Naruto told them to leave the clothes to him. I wonder what kinda clothes Naruto has for Ethan. Kia mused to herself. He probably went to get them at Angel Island. Amachao said from on her shoulder. Seeing her confused expression, he continued. Long story short, but let's just say a lot of people left their stuff over at the Mystic Ruins before you know. Right. Kia said, remaining quiet after that. Angel Island. That must be Naruto's island he was talking about before. Snow said to herself. Even though it's been a day she found herself enjoying her stay with the group, she doesn't like the fact she is spending time with them as a cat and not a real self. She's just worried about what their reaction will be when they learn the truth about her. About what she truly is. After all, when she first revealed her true form, a lot of shinobi and civilians would often try and attack her. It's been like that ever since she's arrived in this mysterious new world, so she had no choice but to remain in her cat form so that no one would attack her. But then again, after the discussion they had last night, it made her understand something important about Naruto and his friends that made her extremely happy to hear about. They don't judge other people because of what they are on the outside. They accept them for who they are on the inside. The mysterious cat nodded to herself in determination. Okay, it's settled. Later on today, I'll show them who I really am. As the group of three waited outside, Kia was trying her very hardest to ignore all the looks the boys in her age group were giving her and some of the wolf calls the older teens let out. She was this close to reaching her breaking point when one of them called her Hexy. She took a deep breath and let out a sigh of annoyance. First the land of snow and now this place. The boys of this continent are acting like they've never seen a girl before. But then again, I am a foreigner. Kia comically deadpans. Hearing the door to the bathhouse open up made her turn to see Naruto and Zane walking out, both of them fully clothed with Naruto holding a brown bag. Snow meows as she runs up to Naruto and jumps on his shoulder and rubs her face with his. Tia Snow. I see you look clean. Naruto smiles as he scratches her chin, earning a purr. He turns to Kia and Amachao. You waited long? Not really. Amachao said. Where's Ethan? Kia asked. She and the Robochow blinked as the boys' faces turned comical, with Naruto having a smile on his face. They glanced at each other and nodded their heads. Zane took out Naruto's pad and pushed a button, making the sounds of drum rolls start playing, which also caught the villagers' attention. Ladies, gentlemen and Amachao. Naruto started dramatically as though he was in a stage show. We would like to officially welcome the newest member of our group. Put your right hands together with your left hands and give it up for. He trailed off as the drums roll suddenly stopped playing and a hyped up music started playing. Ethan, music. Invincible Sonic Runners Ost. The and Zane moved out of the way as Ethan stepped out of the bathhouse, a bashful expression on his face when he saw everyone's eyes on him. Kia, Amachao and Snow's eyes widened at what Ethan had on, and a huge smile appeared on Kia's face, along with some of the girls, as they cried out happily at him. Oh my gosh Ethan, you look so adorable. Yeah Ethan, you look cool. Naya. It was true. Ethan's new look was something completely out of this world, which is a given since they are from another world. He wore a white shirt with a blue line going along the center, over it he wore a white poncho-like shirt, black shorts, and he wore stylish black sneakers. To finish it, he wore a blue bandana around his neck and a white backpack. He still had his arm bandaged, as Naruto and the others didn't want people to freak out and declare Ethan a demon. Ethan blushed at the sudden praise the others gave him, causing him to look down and twiddle his fingers, a shy smile appearing on his face, his voice softer. Thank you. Music end. Kia nods happily at him just as Zane turns off the music, him and Naruto high-fiving each other for the success. Everyone else went off to continue doing what they were doing. Nice job with the clothes, Naruto. I was really surprised to find out you had some on the island. The island princess admits. Naruto had a comical smug look on his face as he puffed his chest out in pride. Of course, after all, I do have a great sense of style. Kia rolled her eyes at him, remembering him wearing nothing but a loincloth. Here. I also got you something. The island princess looked surprised as she caught the brown bag he threw at her. She looked inside before her eyes widened as she let out a quick gasp. She quickly reached inside the bag and took out the objects, which were a pair of hooked metal plates with spiked claws. And no way. The shovel claws. Yup. Naruto said, a happy smile on his face. I found them buried in the ground one day when I was exploring the island. So I kept hold of them ever since. I can't believe it, Kia whispered, staring at the metal plates with an awestruck expression as she put them on her fists and did a few practice swings. These were the actual shovel claws. One of Knuckles' most used items during an important adventure when he needed to dig for something or use them for combat. Looking at them, she can see that despite them being so old, they still looked good as new. She'd never imagined that they would still be around, especially since she figured that they, along with Knuckles' other possessions, were gone. All in all, it just made the island princess wonder what else was on Angel Island. Naruto's eyes widened as Kia ran up to him and gave him a big hug, causing his whole face to turn red. She let him go and smiled happily as she made the shovel claws disappear in a flash of light. Thank you so much, Naruto. Sure. The guardian let out a goofy smile as he rubbed his head. He turns to address everyone. Okay guys. Our stomachs are filled, we're nice and clean, and we're ready to head out. How about we walk around and take a few more pictures before we hit the road? Sounds good, everyone says happily. So the group walked off to various famous destination points in the village as they took their pictures. Some of the pictures were of the views of the village and the rest were of the group making goofy faces or taking poses. They also stopped by some stores to get some snacks which they put inside Ethan's backpack along with some souvenirs. They were now outside the village gates as they took one last group picture in front of it. Well, that's that. Naruto said, putting his pad away as he turns to his friends. You guys ready? They nodded their heads. Okay, let's. So you youngsters are leaving? A familiar voice asked curiously. The group turned their heads and saw Chio standing there. Seeing her made Ethan hide behind Naruto as he peeked out at her. Is Chio? Kia said in surprise, a gentle smile appeared on her face. Yeah, our journey isn't over yet. You came to see us off. Huh? See who's off? Chio asked, looking confused, which made the group blink their eyes at her. Us. Kia said, pointing at herself and the others. We're leaving, Ms. Chio. Chio looked comically shocked at her. What? You're leaving? Wait, who are you kids? How do you know my name? That made the group, except for Ethan and Zane, to fall back comically. Naruto stood up and comically glared at her with a tick mark on his head. Are you serious? We just met each other yesterday. How the hell did you forget who we are, you senile old owl? Kia slapped Naruto upside the head to stop him from talking. But before she could scold him, Chio just laughed wholeheartedly at them, which caught their attention. Haha, I'm sorry. I just had to do that. The retired shinobi said. Kia laughed sheepishly at her with a tick mark on Naruto's head growing larger. Zane had a blank expression, Amachao and Snow giggled, and Ethan just blinked in comical confusion before releasing a silent giggle. Ah. Chio seemed to have heard Ethan's giggle and looked at him, who jumped and hid behind Kia. She smiled kindly. Well, hello little one. You gave us all quite the surprise when you showed up. I did. Ethan asked, peeking out at Chio, who nodded. Ms. Chio met Ethan. Ethan, this is Ms. Chio. Kia introduced them to each other as she looked down at him. She's the nice lady who took care of you while we were dealing with the monster. Oh really? Yup. Ethan looked at Kia before turning to Chio. He stepped out from behind her and bowed to the elderly woman. Thank you very much. Of course, child. Taking care of people is my job. Chio smiled warmly at him. She turns to the older teens. So where are you heading towards now? To the land of lightning. Naruto answered. There are only 2 more of those monsters out there and one of them is there. Chio nods at him. I understand. Please do be careful and watch out for the hidden cloud shinobi. They're always looking out for those with incredible power to add to their collection. And you 4 have the kind of power they want. What's more, the hidden cloud has 2 Jinchuriki, both of them holders of the 2 tails and 8 tails. The teens looked serious from that as they nodded their heads. Ethan trembled fearfully as he gripped the handles of his backpack. Feeling a hand on his shoulder made him look up to see Naruto smiling down at him. Seeing that made the younger boy smile back. "No worries, Granny. We'll be just fine," Naruto said with a confident smirk. A smirk that made Chio raise an eyebrow as she felt a sudden sense of familiarity at seeing it. Kia then came up and hugged her, which surprised the elderly woman before she returned it as well. "Goodbye, Ms. Chio. I hope we get the chance to meet again." "Of course. Take care of yourself." A teasing smirk appeared on Chio's face. "You better hurry up and stake your claim before someone else does. He is quite a catch." Huh? Kia's cheeks erupted in a blush as she immediately knew whom she was talking about. She releases Chio from her hug and whispers so low that the others wouldn't hear. "I don't like Naruto like that." "Oh? Who said it was Naruto I was talking about?" Chio asked out loud with another laugh at seeing Kia's blush increasing from being caught. "What's that about me?" Naruto asked. "Nothing," Kia exclaimed with a mad blush as she waved her arms up and down comically in front of the surprised group, completely ignoring Chio's laughter. "Nothing at all, let's go already." The group blinked in comical confusion at her before Naruto scratched his cheek and shrugged his shoulders. He raised his hand up and concentrated on Zenon's location, which he found. Chaos control, they disappeared in a blue flash, stunning Chio slightly. A blue flash? Flash, wait a second, this reminds me of something. The yellow flash of the leaf has triplets, 2 daughters and a son. Rumors have said that the son went missing a long time ago and still hasn't been found yet, meaning he was probably killed and eaten by a large animal. Chio's eyes widened at the sudden memory of the rumor. She closed her eyes and imagined Naruto's face along with the yellow flash's face and made a comparison between the two. Once she made the comparison, from the facial features to what just happened, she gasped in realization. Naruto Kyosu is the yellow flash's missing son. Anai the fire chaos. The fiery ace. A godlike deity that was once a part of the original chaos and controls one of the 4 classic elements. As his name says, he is a chaos that has the power to control and manipulate fire. His weapon of choice is a greatsword. Hot-headed with a bad temper, Anai represents chaos's anger, aggressiveness, and has his tail. He was defeated and absorbed into Naruto. Fun fact 1, Anai is named after the Vedic fire god of Hinduism, who is related to Indra and Vayu as siblings. Fun fact 2, if Anai were to absorb the Chaos Emeralds, his forms would be based on creatures associated with the fire element, such as dragons, phoenix, and lions. His perfect form taking on a more dragon appearance. Frost the Ice Chaos. The Cold Reaper. A godlike deity that was once a part of the original chaos. As her name says, Frost has the abilities to control ice and she can use it to create any kind of creature she wants. She also has the ability to bring about snowstorms. Her weapon of choice is a scythe. She represents Chaos's ability to manipulate ice. She was beaten and absorbed into Naruto. Fun fact 1, Frost's original name was going to be Shiva, named after the summon from the Final Fantasy series. Fun fact 2, her ability to manipulate ice and snow is based on Elsa from Disney's Frozen. Fun fact 3, if Frost were to absorb the Chaos Emeralds, her forms would be based on creatures associated with ice snow, such as polar bears, Arctic fox, etc. Her perfect form would be based on the abominable snowman. Vayu the Wind Chaos. The Gale Lancer. A godlike entity that was once a part of the original chaos and can control one of the 4 classic elements. As his title says, Vayu can manipulate the wind element, being able to create strong tornadoes, powerful wind that can blow anything away and vanish with the wind itself among many others. His weapon of choice is the spear. Fast and mainly agile, he represents Chaos's ability to call upon air spirits to help him in any aerial combat he's in. He is beaten and absorbed into Naruto. Fun fact 1. Vayu is named after the Hindu deity that is the lord of the wind and air. As mentioned above, he is related to Anai and Indra. Fun fact 2. His name was originally going to be Ventus, which is Latin for wind, much like the Kingdom Hearts character. Fun fact 3. Again, as mentioned above, if Vayu were to continue to absorb more Chaos Emeralds, his forms would be based on creatures, fictional or non-fictional, associated with the wind-air element. His perfect form would look like a thunderbird-like creature. Zenon the Thunder Chaos. The Lightning Streak. A godlike deity that was once a part of the original chaos. As his title says, Zenon can manipulate the element thunder lightning, and with it he can move at lightning speed, appearing as a streak of lightning. Both deadly fast and aggressive thanks to his razor-sharp claws, he represents Chaos's ability to manipulate electrical properties in some of his forms and his memories of Sonic the Hedgehog, which gave him his super speed. Fun fact 1. In Greek, the name Zenon means gift of Zeus. Fun fact 2. The idea for Zenon's lightning-based form and Chaos's ability to generate it came from the Sonic X episode Pure Chaos, where Chaos 2 was able to create an electric shield. Fun fact 3. Zenon's original names were going to be Raiden, after the Mortal Kombat character, and Thor, the Norse god of thunder. Fun fact 4. If Zenon continued to absorb more Chaos Emeralds, his forms would be based on mythological, thick or non-thick, creatures associated with lightning thunder. His perfect form would be based on the Raiju of Japanese mythology, which is a creature that can take on many appearances. Gaia the Earth Chaos. The Raging Earth. A godlike deity that came from the original Chaos who controls one of the 4 classic elements. Gaia can manipulate the very earth itself, causing powerful earthquakes, summoning rocks, and can also control the substance and minerals of the planet. Strong and sturdy like a mountain, her weapon of choice are a pair of gauntlets. She represents Chaos's connection to nature. Fun fact 1. Gaia is named after the Greek primordial deity of the earth. Fun fact 2. If Gaia were to absorb more of the Chaos Emeralds, her forms would be based on mythological creatures of the earth element. Her perfect form would be a mixture between a bull and a bear. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.